All right. We are live now with the 34th ESOU podcast episode with Olibeau and myself, featuring special guest LotusOfDoom. This is always the awkward part, but this is where I usually ask like the guests to like introduce themselves. But it's also like, well, I kind of know you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
this
yeah,
awkward, like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
why don't you introduce yourself as if other people had like meeting you for the first time,
Right,
but I
right.
already know this, so I don't
Yeah.
even need to pay attention. So I'm Lotus of Doom, who, for anybody who doesn't know me, I sort of stream on Twitch sometimes. I sort of make videos on YouTube sometimes. I play a lot of Elder Scrolls. I really like the series and have been around since Morrowind. And basically, my minimal claim to fame in the community is the fact that I'm part of the Unofficial Elder Scrolls Pages Tales of Tamriel podcast, which is the either the longest or second longest, depending upon how you want to look at it, podcast covering the Elder Scrolls Online. There's another podcast that's Skyrim Addict podcast. They've actually been around longer than we have, but they're more Skyrim based. So I guess it just kind of depends on how you want to look at it. And yeah, I'm also part of the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, where it's just all Elder Scrolls stuff because it's kind of my, I don't know, favorite series. So I'm just kind of involved with that. And I'm much more of a podcaster than I am actually like a content creator in terms of video stuff for that type of deal. But yeah, that's, I guess, my too long didn't read of what I do.
Yeah, if you didn't know, Ollie, he actually Lotus actually had us on his podcast. Well, not us, but like me and Skinny on his podcast.
It was like,
Yeah,
Yes, I
yeah, we
remember
talked a lot
that. Yeah.
about man, what did we even talk about? We talked a lot about microtransactions
yeah,
and
we devolved
rewards.
into
Oh my god, yeah,
microtransactions
we talked.
and
Yeah,
ironically, almost sort of ahead of the whole curve of the incentive thing really being a big thing. We went on that for like an hour and a half.
oh my
Where
god, it was a cozy stream. I remember wrapping
it
myself up
was.
in a blanket.
Yep,
Yeah,
it was obscenely late at night because it was the only time we could all manage to do a podcast for the same time, and then I think it was like 3 hours long, so like around 4 a.m. we were like finishing
Oh my god.
something like that. Yeah,
yeah.
um,
I think yeah, we also met up last year, right, at PAX East.
yeah, it was last
Are we
year's
gonna,
PAX.
we
Yep.
gonna do it again this year in a couple months?
Yeah, are you going to PAX East again
Oh
this year?
hell yeah, I'm gonna go to PAX East. Shit.
Fuck yes.
Oh,
All right,
I
that's
gotta
what's up.
get high again.
Yes, yes. Also yes. Look, that was a very reasonable form of the Fox Den trying to get us to do a podcast and stay on topic where everybody is out of their mind on something different.
Oh, are you talking about when we were like in that conference room and
Yeah,
we
the
were like,
conference room that
dude,
I that was
yeah,
the literally the shadiest like
dude, I
nerd
thought,
thing you can do. I was looking around and they didn't
yeah,
have a room for people with like they're like, "Oh yeah, you have a room if you have like a media badge." And I was like, "I have a media badge." They're like, "Okay, well, we don't know where any of the rooms are." I was like, "Okay, well, this one's not locked." So I just like pried it open and we just went in.
there's a picture I think somewhere on Twitter still, and it looks like we're like the Taliban or some shit, like, you know, like
It's a
in a
mess.
semicircle about to read some like
Yeah.
ransom shit, you know, for hostages.
Yes.
It was
Yeah,
like, what
it's
the
like
fuck?
blink if you're here against your will. Like,
Yeah.
My
But
god.
yeah, you think speaking of PAX East, you think the spring event for what was it, the gathering that they announced is that PAX East? It's hard to say, right?
it is because they said there's going to be something. Obviously, it's not the reveal on Wednesday because none of us would be there
Right,
because we
right.
didn't. Yeah. Um, and they used to do the Bethesda Game Days thing like attached to PAX East, which they haven't done since the pandemic. So I don't know. I keep thinking they're gonna do something, announce something, but it seems like it'd be really late for them to announce it now. You know what I mean? Like this is
Yeah.
because it comes out in March, or PAX East is in March, so it's like that's really that is not much time to plan. Although I don't know, some of the stuff with PAX is kind of weirdly planned. I still haven't even found out on confirmation if I have my media badge or if I actually have to buy them yet. And I'm like, I applied like 2 months ago based on them emailing me. So I'm like, okay, that's fine if I don't get one, but like, can you give me a heads up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt that they usually announce the expansion in like February, I would have thought.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm very curious to see
Yeah.
what that meetup thing is supposed to be. Because I don't know, it was a lot of fun before.
Yeah, it's gotta be PAX. It has to be. Like
I
spring is March spring. March is spring.
yeah, it's
Late March.
well, I
Late
guess it's
March.
the end of it's late March is like the beginning of spring, end of winter, I guess. In New England, it's kind of a toss up. You never know what season you're in March. So
Yeah. Not gonna have lobster rolls again. That's for sure. Oh my lord.
unbelievable.
What
I'm
do you
gonna
mean?
have
Do you actually
I,
like lobster rolls? No
oh,
way.
dude, like constantly. That lobster is literally my favorite food.
Yeah, I know. I know lobster is
So it's
really
like
good, but like lobster
yeah, you
roll
weren't
on a
feeling the roll. Yeah, no,
that
I
bread
like
is
roll. You put it in mac and cheese.
yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, no, I'm all about it. Just pretty much any way you can cook a lobster, I will eat it. Which is not cost effective whatsoever, as that food is freakishly expensive.
Mm, but yeah, all right. Speaking of the chapter, so I know you've been going around a couple of podcasts, speculating as well, like the rest of us,
Yeah.
about what's in store for ESO players for 2023.
Yep.
Well, this will be the last time I think we can like discuss as a group or like as content creators, what's gonna happen on Wednesday. So, give me your speculations, gentlemen.
So, mine kind of aligns with like a lot of people's. I actually saw your tweet right before about how we shouldn't hype this up. So apparently, we should just not talk about this anymore because
Bro,
we're the worst.
Reddit hates me, bro. I
Yeah,
swear.
well, I mean, clearly, it's best to just always be disappointed rather than be excited and then potentially be disappointed. We should just be sad all the time. That's the way to go, I guess. But no, I mean, the Hermaeus Mora thing, I actually wasn't expecting. Although anybody who knows my stuff, that's my favorite character from the series. The majority of my emotes on my channel are Hermaeus Mora based, so like, I'm a big fan of that being the direction. And it's kind of neat that it seems like a lot of people are kind of indifferent on the idea of another Daedric event thing, but the idea that it sounds like we're working with Hermaeus Mora again, which is what you kind of did in the expansion Dragonborn with Skyrim,
Right.
I'm all on board with, because usually you're fighting Daedra, so it'd be kind of neat to work with them again. I'm on board with that. As for like where we're going, anything we've gotten, because they kind of breadcrumb where you're going a little bit, and sometimes they throw in some red herrings to get you to like be off base. They reference both Hammerfell and the Telvanni Peninsulas last year at a couple different points. I think the Hammerfell thing is kind of a parody of the fact that everybody always keeps asking for when are we going to Hammerfell, and it's like like 2035 when Elder Scrolls 6 launches or something. Like that's when we're gonna probably go there.
Yeah.
So I think the Telvanni Peninsula, and just like I think they're just gonna fill out the sides of Morrowind, because you got the little mitten thing off to the side. I think they're going to get that because that'll have Necrom and all that stuff. And then there's that little teeny strip next to the rift, which that one I was not originally thinking until we got those letters. And it turned out that the answer to everything was, well, the secret to the letter was the Blacklight, which there is a city in that area. It's the Redoran capital called Blacklight. That's either the most on the nose miss in history, or they intended to do that. Like,
it's got to be intentional. That
it's just like I can't believe that that's a mistake. And a lot of people were speculating when Matt Fryer did the whole end of year letter, like, well, why did he say zones? Is that a typo? Well, I mean, based on previous years, you get the big zone with the chapter, and then you get the like mini DLC zone type of thing, which is substantially smaller. Yes, they plan these things out in advance, but clearly changing the release cadence is at least to a degree based on the feedback that they've been getting. Like, okay, maybe drop the 1 year thing. But since these things are done so far in advance, it was probably still designed in a way that it's like, well, we have a huge zone and we have a smaller zone. Oh, if we're going to just release it, maybe we should just put it all together instead of the artificial break. So zones being both sides of the map of Morrowind we don't have would make sense. And then you cover both parts. You've got the Blacklight bit, and then you could also have Necrom and everything like that. For
it could also be a bit like Western Skyrim, how you had like the underground bit,
Right. Yeah, for sure. Right. So like I think that's what they meant by zones and why we're going to be in that region. I mean, there's more evidence to that than anything else. And the final thing that basically I've been on board with, the most likely, but I don't know if it means we're definitely getting it, but the most likely system I think we could see, spellcrafting sort of makes sense if they finally locked it down. They've had it suggested since the beginning with Nikonkel and stuff like that. He pieced out, it got put on the back burner, and you see pieces of it like all over the place with antiquities and stuff like that. Like, it seems like the system's been integrated in other stuff, but I wonder if there's a way of revitalizing the combat, because they keep doing all these weird combat changes without really letting us know what the end goal is. Well, maybe all this crap adds up for a reason, like something like, okay, well, this wouldn't work based on the old system. Like, spellcrafting will just break using the old way of doing things. We need to kind of simplify it so that spellcrafting can actually work, or something like that. And then if you're going to get all nerdy and shit, lore-wise, you've got the Telvanni, which are mages and stuff like that. If you're going to be in their region, okay, well, that seems pretty likely that they might uncover with the Daedric Prince of Knowledge. Okay, well, now we know how to craft spells where you didn't before. It relates to the story or whatever. And, you've got something referenced way back in base game with these things called the Indigo tomes in Necrom. If you go to the UESP, there is literally no information on these things. They are mentioned once because when Queen Aren went AWOL, one of the things she did was sneak into Necrom and study these Indigo tomes. No idea what they are. Okay, well, Zos is really big into doing weird pulls like that and then fleshing it out. So maybe that's how, like, Hermaeus Mora wants to find these things. Boom, you get a hold of these Indigo tomes. It teaches you how to make spells, or it releases something that you have to collect parts. There's all ways that it seems like these different things could add up to actually make, like, okay, yeah, like, here's a storyline reason why this could sort of be the case. I don't know. That's been my thoughts on trying to use any of the lore is to explain why we're going to get that. Because other than that system, I don't think the other ideas for long requested systems make sense. It's just not feasible until, unfortunately, they drop last gen, which is getting to the point where it's kind of necessary. But unfortunately, I don't think they're there just yet. But they haven't even been like coy about it or whatever. It's like, no, you can't get more housing slots because last gen physically can't do it. No, you can't get a new class because last gen does not have the RAM for it. So it's like, well, how would they suddenly give us a new class then?
Exactly.
If they drop last gen, okay, yes. But the adoption rate is still too low with the chip shortage and all that stuff. Maybe in another year or so. But at the moment, I don't think they can do that. So
that's what I'm thinking too. I think next year is gonna be when they announce they're dropping last gen.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, because I, as somebody who not only mains on PlayStation, but I was originally progging Griffinheart on PS4. It got to the point where I was actually ready to quit, not because it was too frustrating. Like, we were making good progress and, like, we loved running with the team and stuff like that. But I was like, dude, it doesn't work. Like, the game literally doesn't work. And we had so many situations happen where we'd be no death, we're way under time, we're about to get it, and I can't use the wind portal up. I can't drop ice. I can't physically see the spider when I came out of portal because it hasn't loaded in yet, and I died because I don't know what direction to look. Like, and then I got a PS5 and I'm like, this is a totally different fucking game. What, like, how is this even? It runs like my PC, like when I got a PS5, because I do play on PC, just not primarily. It's pretty much the same. Like, I the two of them I can switch between, it feels the same now. Whereas before it was just like, dude, the load screens were ridiculous. And I know it's like, it's not really, people like to dunk on Zos, and I certainly will when it's appropriate too, for them screwing up. That's fine. I'm all for taking accountability for when you botch them. there's not so much they can do when it's just like, we are literally out of RAM. Like, okay, well, you don't build PlayStations. Like, there's nothing you can do for that. So, yeah, it became a very, very different game. And it sucks for anybody stuck there for whatever reason. You can't afford it. You can't physically get one, whatever the case. That's a shitty reason that it's being held back. But until more people have access to it, they are also a business. So they're not going to just drop it until they can match the revenue somewhere. Because I don't think Microsoft is going to like that very much if they're just like, yeah, suddenly we're just, we're not going to support them. We're really sorry. But also, we make half as much money now. That's probably not the best business strategy for corporate, and I don't think they're probably going to like that too much until there's more options.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of how you expect the game system to upgrade in the next big DLC, when you mentioned spellcrafting, how do you think that's going to look if it's not going to be anything too drastic? I mean, I'm thinking like maybe you get to choose whether spells cost magicka or stamina.
Yep,
Maybe
I can see that.
choose like what kind of damage it does, whether it does like flame or poison,
right?
Things like that.
One of the things that I actually like that you found the video, Nefas, was the QuakeCon thing.
Yeah,
back in 2014. It was funny. I had referenced that on Tales of Tamriel. And I was like, yeah, I don't have that video handy. I don't know what the fuck that thing is. And then you literally brought it on your stream. And I've been telling everybody, just watch this. This is the fucking video I was talking about. Like, that I had no idea where it was from. So just look at that thing. A lot of those animations are clearly in the game. And other ones that aren't like summoning stuff in. Okay, well, that's just part of the game. Like, the enemies summon in, like, a lot of times. Like, oh, I come through a portal. Okay, well, then that's just me controlling the portal. That's not a new animation. That's just you having control of that animation. A lot of that stuff, I feel like they could kind of reuse animations and assets that are in the game, except you now have control of them as opposed to them being something in the environment anyways, or an enemy doing it to you and stuff like that. So, I don't know. It seems like they could recycle a lot of that to make the system work. And I can't imagine trying to balance that and have it be substantially worthwhile personally. I mean, I'm not a programmer and I don't envy them for figuring this stuff out. Like, it's a lot easier to be on this side and just criticize what they do. But some of the stuff, it's like, well, it seems like balancing that would be so difficult because it'll be either be really over the top powerful, which will be fun and like a huge selling point, but it'll totally break the balance of the game and then everybody will be annoyed with it, except me, because then I want just something. Just give me a week where I'm so overpowered I can like one man Godslayer and then never talk about it again. And then they can patch it. That's fine. But the other side of the thing is, if it's so bland and it's like reskins of just like, oh yeah, now your lightning has 4 more bolts, then it's like, that's not exciting. Nobody's going to give a shit about that. So like, it has to be impactful, but it can't be so impactful that it like breaks the game. And like, that sounds awful to try to balance out, because I don't know. I have no idea how you do that. I don't get it.
In that same video, they actually had to. They said they had to think about how it would affect the in-game combat balance.
Right.
So I think it's evident they thought about it a lot. I don't know why they never went with it. Maybe it's because the guy left for Riot Games or
TechnikalKO left pretty quickly after the like release of the game. I think it was like a year or so, and he was like out. He went to Riot or whatever it was. So.
He's like, I'm gonna play League of Legends, but anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's clear they thought about it, and honestly, I agree with you. I think so far, like, regards what you said about like whether it should be boring, bland versus overpowered and over the top. I think it should be overpowered and over the top. Honestly.
Yeah. So I definitely
more likely.
Yeah. It probably is, because something that they get criticized for, but it's just like, it's always the new thing drops and it's like, okay, this is incredible. So everybody bum rushes it and everybody uses it. And then it gets generally like nerfed shortly thereafter. Thracians and Oaken Soul and all these things. So like, that even kind of fits that MO personally, like as far as but my thing is, which, people all do their end game or whatever game for various reasons. I don't personally care about being overpowered. I actually like it. I hate being nerfed. I'm fine with working with it, but like, I don't like having stuff scaled back. I would rather things be
Right.
adjusted. I would rather the game adjust for them as opposed to adjust me to keep it in line with the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like if you want to make it interesting, go all out. Make it interesting, make it whacked out, like, okay, this is super broken or whatever, and then fine tune it later. And as opposed to it comes out and it just gets dunked on because everybody's like, well, this sucks. Like, this is whatever. There's more cosmetic stuff, which granted people like, but not in terms of like a system. I don't think that's what people are looking for at this point.
Yeah, I think that was one of their biggest mistakes with Update 35, like with the majority demographic. Like, they nerfed everybody.
Yes, they sure did.
And the top end's like, yeah, we'll adapt, but then everybody else is like, well, what about me?
Yeah, so I've actually, like, I'm a podcast junkie. Other than like making them, I love to listen to them. My job just allows me to basically listen to music and podcasts all day, every day. So like I tend to be like pretty well caught up on all of them. And you've had a few shows where you've had different people discuss like 35 and stuff like that. And I always like to joke that like a lot of people seem to think I'm much more, I guess, end game than I think I am because I'm like an achievement hunter, but I'm not much of like, I don't want to necessarily flex like, look how good I am. I'm just like, okay, what is the most streamlined method to do the thing so that I can just have the thing defeated? And until shared achievements, I literally only played one character, period, because I was like, I can't be bothered. And now I branched out a little bit. But I started last year and I was like, well, I suppose I should learn how to DPS because then I can at least get into more groups potentially to get like some of the stuff that I don't have. And I was a real shit DPS and now I'm a mid shit DPS. I can do enough, but man, did that suck when I started to get like, hey, I'm pushing around like 85, 90K. And then it was like, oh, by the way, goodbye 31% of your damage. You can adjust. It was like, no, you can adjust. I just got here. This sucks, man. Like, and that's like a huge downer. And then the bigger thing isn't so much like you said, you can adapt. Well, I can adapt too. I just need to like do it. But the problem is, if they keep shifting where the goalpost is, how am I ever going to reach it? Because it's like, okay, well, I just practiced enough to get this. Well, now you've changed everything. Okay, well, now I've taken a step back, so I'm not as good. So I need to practice to get to that level. And then you change it again. And okay, now I need to practice again to get to that level. And that's fine. But the problem is, I can't prog learning how to be good at what I'm doing and prog a challenge I have not done. Trying to learn a rotation that I didn't know and learn a Godslayer strat at the same time is more than I have time for or willingness to do, actually. Like, I don't have that. Like, that to me is past my interest level, even though I want something like that. That's literally the only achievement left in the game with a title that I don't have that I'm like, oh, I really want that. And we were making progress in my group, and then they changed 3 times, and my group fell apart because they were like, we have to keep redoing this. And like nobody in the group one person had it. So it was going to be 11 new people. It wasn't on autopilot for us. It wasn't fine tuning. It was learning to do it, but also relearning how to play every time they patch something. And we missed the window where Dragonites were the literal hotness hitting like freight trains and like all of that stuff, where it was just like, okay, damage is sky high. These things are super strong. We didn't get that window. We didn't get it in time. So then it was one nerf, and then it was another nerf, and then it was a combat overhaul. Then it was another combat overhaul with some bugs. And it was just like, it sucks because it's like, okay, well, I want to do this challenge, but I can't do both. Like, it's just not reasonable. So I really just want them to balance is fine, but these overhauls being so relentless is just exhausting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping we're kind of over that sort of hump, and hopefully things will be more straightforward now.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. I mean, we always say this like every year, but I don't know. I feel like there's not much more they can do to, I don't know, you know, like hybridization. I feel like that's got to its limit now. I feel
Yeah,
like
we
there's
feel
not
pretty
much
hybridized.
more. Yeah, like,
It doesn't feel finished though.
It does not. I don't know what the end goal still really is because, yeah, it doesn't feel finished. It feels like we're 50, 75% of the way toward whatever the hell they're doing. And it's just like, I'm fine with them getting there, like to finish it up. But it's just like, don't like these drastic changes. Like a little adjustments, one thing, but it's like, okay, well, relearn everything and find all these new skills and all that. And it's just like, dude, nah, man, that's above my pay grade. Like,
yeah. I think the most devastating is when they change the timing of like skills and light attacks and heavy attacks. Because I know they like light attack weaving has been sort of a bit of an issue with the community.
Yeah, it's very polarizing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think anytime they try to affect that, it's usually bad for everyone. So
right, yeah, then nobody's happy.
Exactly, yeah. So hopefully, as long as we've got like the timing down, I think if they're changing the damage of skills or what they cost and how long they last, maybe that shouldn't make too much of an impact anymore. One would hope. We'll
Fingers crossed.
maybe the spellcrafting could be like the last thing. Then maybe the last thing.
Yeah, is that like? Yeah, is that the final piece to finish it off? That'd certainly be interesting. I'm also gonna laugh if it ends up being like absolutely nothing. It's like, nope, it's totally it's in Atmora, and none of this matters, and it actually doesn't even relate to Hermaeus Mora. None of this is real. It's just totally off base.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could also get like a wish.com version of an add-on that everyone uses, because we got like the armory system for dressing room.
Yeah, which is great as long as there isn't a leaderboard.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, what other? Maybe we get a mini map, but like a weird mini map, you know?
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's dude. So many people on console would love a mini map. I mean, I'm used to not having one, so it doesn't really matter. But like when I originally watched people do Frozen Treasure Seeker, I think it's called. I don't know, whatever the trifecta is for Frostvault.
Oh yes, yeah.
And I was watching people do like the mouse thing, and I was like, "You have a map?" I was like, "We're putting like markers where the things are to try." I was like, "What the hell is going on this? It looks like I'm watching a different game."
Yeah, Cradle of Shadows as well. I remember doing the
yes
for that. It's like I have no idea where I'm going. I need to install.
Yeah, whereas we have to bring up the map and you put your waypoint on the speaker thing, and you just have to find your way to that. That's the console way.
Okay, learn and adapt.
Yeah.
So what do you think is going to be the new future, Ollie?
I mean, it's so hard to say. I feel like it's got to be something subtle, like you say, with the limitations we have on previous generation consoles. So I think it's going to be like sort of subtle customization of something that kind of already exists. So, if we do go down the spellcrafting route, it's going to be like changing costs of things, changing what type of damage it does. I mean, potentially animations, I don't know. I feel like it could be a bit too taxing on the system. I don't know, or maybe we have something again that's like non-combat, like we had with Tales of Tribute. So I think
that's a risk, though. Non-combat. Like
again,
we'll be real mad,
bro. I mean, this is the year they need to be like, okay, we heard you, and we're making a comeback, starting to make a comeback, right?
Yeah.
They need this year to be good, and they need next year to be good, and it's like, okay, maybe they can afford another update Republican after that.
Well, I'm sure they said they wanted to sort of like flesh out the whole environment of the game, like make it have more things to do other than combat. But yeah, judging from the community reaction, maybe they might ditch that idea.
I don't know about another Tales of Tribute thing. What would it be at this point? We have a card game. Dice game?
Just playing dice. You just go in the back alleys of like Rockland and there's fucking dice.
Yeah, shoot some dice.
Yep.
Well, they could do like the non-combat pet Pokemon game.
Oh hell no! Really? Pet versus pet?
I like that.
Can I call an executive veto on doing
I don't know.
I don't know. I just don't know what else besides spellcrafting is like with hype ESO up. I don't know. I don't
well, that's
see
the thing. It's unless, I mean, again, there's always the chance, depending upon how skeptical you are of them, you could just say they're lying. But they've said it's long requested, which this kind of has been longer. Like honestly, the things, at least from my anecdotal little circle of stuff, is want a new class, fix PvP, which is not a system, and what do you call it? And spellcrafting. Those are the three things I always hear just over and over and over and over again. It's like, in 4 years of podcasting, that's probably the three most common things I've heard people ask about. So like, one of them isn't a system. One of them doesn't seem possible. The third one is spellcrafting. So just logically, that's kind of why I would think maybe that works. And it, story-wise, it can tie into any of the stuff they've been playing. Even if we're super wrong and we're somewhere else, the Daedric Prince of Knowledge, it's like, okay, well, you're probably going to learn something new dealing with that. Okay, well, suddenly now you know how to craft spells rather than just cast spells. Like, I don't know, just seems the most likely, even, you never know. I was going to say, who predicted the card game, but actually you guys kind of made a joke on the show right before the card game dropped about like, I wanted like a tavern game like cards or something.
Yeah.
So I guess like theoretically you can actually, somebody always guesses it.
I mean, I always wanted something like Tales of Tribute, like a tavern game, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I wasn't too bothered by it, but I know a lot of people were like, this is it.
Yeah, it was a weird main feature for sure. Like that was like the selling point. But I actually went in, I don't really like card games. And I actually was like, oh, cool, whatever. I mean, I'll try it because I like most of the stuff in ESO. I was like, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. I ended up liking it like a surprising amount. And I played it basically up until the point I got every achievement for all the categories. And got to like, I don't know, top 100 or whatever in the leaderboards. And then one thing that people have recently been asking, like, oh, how often do you still play Tales? Kind of like bringing up the fact that it's like it kind of died off, it seems like, for the most part. Honestly, one of the only reasons I don't is a really, really specific scenario of I generally never play with ESO Plus. I've had it off and on, but I actually don't play with ESO Plus because honestly, I'm just cheap and I don't mind inventory management that much. However, Tales of Tribute sucks if you don't have ESO Plus. Your inventory is wrecked from. It's great that they give you all that stuff, but it's like, dude, I can't. That is so much stuff in my inventory. So that kind of sucks, actually, that I didn't realize at first that it was like, oof, that gets pretty long in the tooth if you need to try to put all of that crafting stuff everywhere. And it's all varied. It's all different levels, which is fine if it's going into a craft bag. It's not fine if it's not going into a craft bag.
Do you know Pink Apple, the Tales of Tribute player?
Yeah, well, I know of them from this show.
Yeah. This is the funniest shit ever, but like apparently when we last had them on, the main reason why people aren't sticking with Tales of Tribute is like there's no incentive.
Yeah,
there's
That's the only thing with an incentive.
It's a common theme. I don't know. It was so bizarre listening to it. It was like, wow. I don't know. Like,
I know. It's become a very long trend with pretty much all aspects. It's like, I mean, my thing is like, yeah, as long as I'm having fun, whatever. But having fun toward a goal is like, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah,
and
addicting.
Unfortunately, a lot of aspects of this game, the goal is either so far above the general consensus because like most people aren't even trying for like the concept of Swashbuckler Supreme is like, oh, I want that mount. Yeah, good luck. Like for the majority of people. But even easier things along the way. Planesbreaker, Godslayer, Griffinheart, like lower tier trifectas are still above the majority of people. So like, okay, why even bother to try to get my purple skin? Because I can't even complete plus like 1 or something like that. So like the jumps, this was something we kind of went into on Tales. Like the jumps are just so huge from one level of dedication to the next. So even the few incentives that they do have, they're so far up, a lot of people don't even consider them incentives because they don't think they'll get there because there's no steadily working toward it. One of the things that I've started bringing up just with the achievements thing, because most people, Olibeau, you have more achievements than me, which I always think is, I always appreciate when somebody has more achievements than me because I'm missing about 1,500, maybe 2,000, something like that. Like I'm at like 50, just shy of 53, I think, and it's almost 55 in the game at the moment or whatever. So I've got like a decent chunk of them, but I'm definitely missing some still.
Is it mostly the raid ones, like the?
Yeah, it's some of the really bizarre things like cubed because it just works like shit.
Yeah. It's weird. Those ones are only worth like 5 points.
They sure are.
They're
only
harder
worth like
than
5 points, and they're way. That is 1,000 times harder than that trifecta. But like, we literally spent more time trying to get cubed than we did to get like the whatever the trifecta is in Moongrave. Like, and we still don't have cubed. We got the trifecta. We've gotten the trifecta twice. We can't get cubed.
And then for getting a motif, you get 50 points. Even though just guild store farming. Like I'm not gonna,
right.
Like, farm
but for the
dailies.
most part, most people don't give a shit about achievements unless it gives you a title or something you want. Like, which is fine. Like that's whatever. But they combined the achievements last year into like a uniform thing, which I think was a huge step in the right direction. I know some people didn't like it, but for the most part, I think that was a great step. I wish in terms of incentives, they would, because this could be a system that like a lot of people maybe could get like an evergreen thing of, because it doesn't matter what you do and when you jump on. I wish they would have unlocks based on like milestones of achievements. Like get 40,000 points, you get a skin. Get 50,000 points, that unlocks a mount. Well, that gives the whole game at your disposal. Doesn't matter what you want to do. You just like PvP? Well, then scoop up all the PvP achievements. It's working you toward a direction. It's not insurmountable. You don't need you don't need trifectas on trifectas to get it, because every expansion we get also adds more achievements. So it steadily becomes more obtainable over time as well. And then they can put in a new milestone for like, okay, well then now there's one at 70,000 now that there are 70,000 achievements. And it gives people a reason to do all sorts of aspects of the game and maybe try different stuff. Like, I never played PvP, but a lot of these PvP achievements are pretty easy. Maybe I'll just jump in and fuck around with it for a while. And you might end up liking it. You might think it sucks and stop once you get the easy ones. But like, I would like it if they kind of incentivized a reason to try different things. And now that we have just that system, like where it's all shared, you can do it on any character. I just thought that would be, I mean, easy, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how to program. So I don't, easy metaphorically. I mean, easy as an idea, not as a programming standpoint. But it would be kind of cool if like they were to do that for a couple incentives, because it's giving everybody a chance at working toward it in all sorts of different ways, as opposed to, I just have a trial team and I'm doing trials, or I just have a dungeon team, I'm just doing 4-player stuff, I just PvP, I just like story, whatever. Just kind of everybody would be included in that case. So yeah, I don't know. I've started to realize that like I kind of wish they would put something like that in the game to incentivize more than random points that have no meaning, except to like the 55 of us who actually sit there counting our points.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like the numbers just seem arbitrary unless there's going to be something to work towards.
And there's like absolutely no continuity between the difficulty of how many points you get based on how hard the thing was you did.
And I wonder whether that would like impact the reward system, like make it unbalanced. I mean, but I suppose it doesn't really matter, because like you say, there's so many different ways you can get points. Like, it doesn't really matter if
exactly.
cube is worth 5 and a motif is worth
Yeah, if you
50,
don't
'cause
want a bunch of
whatever.
5s, then don't bother with the
Yeah.
really weird ones. Just go for the big ones. Oh, I got the Challenger. Well, that's 200. That's probably a better use of your time than like I ran around in a circle in Moonhunter Keep, not getting bit by anything, and people were killing them. Hey,
Oh,
5
man.
points. It's like,
That
okay,
was a
cool.
tricky one as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Strangling Cowardice, miserable.
I still think that the worst one still has to be the defensive executions for Battlegrounds.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm sitting at like 230 of those, and I was like,
Yeah.
cool, I'm not even halfway there, and I am a max general on, or whatever it's called, Grand Overlord on one character, and
Yeah.
like halfway up the tree on another character. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
god, like,
I literally ended up putting chains on for that just to like get people closer to the flag.
oh, that's a clever idea. Just pull them into it so they have no choice. But well, it's yeah.
I feel like I feel like either it needs to not only be killing blows and it needs to be assists,
Yes.
or bring the number down, or make the flag area bigger. Because at the moment, like those three things make it a real pain.
Yeah, there's
It
a
takes
couple
months and
Battlegrounds
months.
ones that are kind of bizarre. The single game things where like the chaos like do this much damage to the chaos ball carrier, but it doesn't register unless it's the same person.
Right? Yeah.
And I'm like, bruh, what the fuck is
And
that?
then
Like,
when they keep
okay, fine, I
changing
gotta
the
let them
queuing
try to
system.
win. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just
Oh well.
yeah.
I made this list when people were speculating on Matt Furier's Twitter letter about like what the most requested new features are. Which so like, how about Trial Group Finder? Probably not, right? Yeah, nah. I mean, people have asked for it, but like,
it's fine. For normal.
Yeah, it's for normals, whatever. But like,
Yeah.
look at the amount of issues that we have with Group Finder with 4 people. Let's add 8. That'll probably go well.
I don't think that's
Everybody
gonna
will be
happen.
happy.
Let's
Yeah.
see, combat tutorial. I don't think that will be like the major feature.
That,
hey guys,
if that's the major feature, a lot of people who are already kind of disillusioned with Endgame are going to be. It's like, cool. Well, you just helped. I'm glad you taught the people learning all these extra tricks, but I've already watched a bunch of content creators teach me how to do this stuff. This literally gave me nothing. Like
Yeah.
All
I
right.
mean, that's
made a
one
new
way to get a lot
character
of people up
since.
in arms, I guess.
Yeah.
How about
I mean,
this?
I haven't made a new character since Elsewhere, so apparently there's like a new system.
Yeah,
Oh,
the tutorial.
yeah, because I was going to say there's like a whole new tutorial. I mean, they do the tutorial section each year, but yeah, now there's like the one where you pick your gate you go through with the Durrani Tower and stuff or whatever. I don't know. I have no space for more characters, so I have no clue either. I have to delete somebody to even see what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, how about cross save?
That would make me real happy.
I don't think that's possible though, isn't it? All like tied up in like, branding.
There's
the
some
data tables are like separate.
So there's some pretty. Again, I don't have any on the record knowledge or anything like that, but from just talking to people at ZOS, it's way more complicated because the game wasn't designed with that in mind. With like when originally PC could get transfers, it was just a straight up copy of that file to the console you picked. That wouldn't work copying it back and forth. Like you would have to have like a shared version of the information. And actually, Zero brought up in chat, which is something I always say, your economy is super fucked on PC.
I don't know if it's fucked. It's just different.
Well,
Superior.
it is. It is. But when I hear the numbers you guys are talking in, I'm like, what the hell? Like, oh my god, why are you all so rich?
Inflation.
But again, this isn't really necessarily to dunk on add-ons, but when it takes you 0.4 of a second to do your writ on all of your characters, it takes me, I'm pretty efficient at it, but I mean, like, okay, it takes me like 2 minutes to do a set of writs because I gotta run around and actually click them and make them and blah, 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 and then drop them off and then switch characters. The efficiency just isn't there. So like, the difference is huge. And actually mainly why I always joke that the economy is fucked on PC is the crown exchange, like crowns and gold are like, when I see the numbers you people pay for stuff, it is 100 gold to a crown on console. Very easy. easy to keep track of. That's how I buy my expansions. It's like
on EU, it used to be 3,000.
Yeah, no,
it's about 2,000 now.
The most inflation we ever got was at one point it was like 110.
Right now it's about 1,000 to 1 on the PCNA.
On PCNA?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's like, but again, to your point, it's all relative. Like,
Right.
But what do you call it? So it's just like that would be weird because if you have that situation, PC players can run amok being billionaires on console, and it's like, I'm not the wealthiest player by any means, but I come to console and I was like, cool, I got like 15 million. Okay, I literally can't afford like to gold out my armor here. Like, fuck, I'm screwed. Like, so like that would definitely, like, the economy I think would be super borked if that was even a thing. Like, I think that would be a pretty huge holdup, and I guess maybe it'd stabilize eventually. I have no idea, but yeah, I'm not sure just with the server setup how possible that. I'm sure they could figure it out, but I don't know if it'd be worth it. The only other thing, which even though I play on Sony, like a Sony PlayStation, I'm on the PS5. It's probably Sony's fault. I always say it's Sony's fault because they're obnoxious and they don't play nice with others. So I feel like they probably wouldn't want anybody to go anywhere but another Sony platform. So as far as I know, like, usually when everybody else is like, hey, let's do crossplay. Hey, let's do cross save. It's always Sony being like, no crossplay, no cross save. Stop having fun unless it's on our console. Now that they're owned by Microsoft and there's all this stuff with Activision Blizzard and Sony like throwing a tantrum with that, I feel like they would dig their heels in even more to make sure that wouldn't happen. So I would love it. I don't think it's going to happen. And cross play, which was originally what I was like, oh, crossplay would be fun. Crossplay would not be fun solely on the fact that add-ons will make it a mess. Like, there's no, like, PvP, if some people have add-ons and some people don't. And then crossplay, it's like, okay, well, some people can do this in a trial and some people can't. And it's like, well, that's fine because you're all on the same team in a trial, but that's going to be weird. You're going to get all these weird splits and stuff. So, like, cross save, I would really, really like, just because I think it's more logistically possible. And I think that's still really, really unlikely.
Like character transfers and stuff.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, I don't know. It's just, I would love that because it would also kind of connect a lot of the community more. But not everybody can have the thing on both either. Like, people might not have a PC that can run it, but they have an Xbox or whatever. But the option there would be really neat, honestly, just because, like, when I play on PC, I've got this, like, 3/4 built Templar that I'm like, yeah, well, it's a good thing I can just kind of fudge my way through this trial with everybody. Like when they do tipsy trials with Madigan and stuff like that, I join and everybody's like, yeah, he doesn't use add-ons, blah, blah, blah. He just done all the trials a whole bunch. So he won't be dead weight, but he's not going to be like, he's going to have weird gear. And I'm just like, yeah, it's just, I know that this can physically beat it. And it's just, I'm going to do what I can because I don't have any of the crap I have on console.
All right. Yeah. How about team versus team format instead of 3 ways?
Oh, absolutely. I honestly, even if they just give us custom battlegrounds so we can do stuff like that, like, okay, fine, you can't matchmake, whatever. Like, if I have 7 friends on or 8 friends on, and we want to just play capture the flag or capture the relic, but it's like, okay, well, you 4 are better than us 5. So it's a 5-on-4. We pick our teams. We pick the map. First to 100 flag captures because we want to do this all day, whatever. It seems weird that we can't do that. So, like, even if it's just a custom thing, dude, the 3-way thing works for Cyrodiil. Fine with the 3 banner war. I mean, it doesn't work how they want it to work. You just team up and beat on the team that has the least people. I mean, that's how it always works. But in a more competitive aspect of Battlegrounds, dude, the 3 thing is annoying. I don't like it. It's a battle to not lose rather than a battle to win.
How likely do you think is gonna be this new major feature? I don't think it's likely.
I
It's
don't
PvP.
I don't think it's likely either because I think they're real. The next thing they need to give PvP is surprise it works, because anything else and people are going to yell at them. Like that's I can't see them announcing like anything else other than performance is better. No matter what they do, they're probably going to catch shit for. And to be fair, one of the things that like I really don't understand, dude, at least give Battlegrounds a themed map or something each year. Like,
okay.
Like, you know what the like High Isle, okay, fine. Here's like a jousting arena. I was talking about that with Locke the other day. Like, or, you know, Deadland. Okay, fine. Here's a Deadlands arena type of thing. Something just to say, you know, it exists, because people still like that. Cyrodiil's not as easy to adjust, whereas a Battlegrounds arena is just like, yeah, here's a new environment to play in. Like, whatever. Like, that's not minimal work, but at least enough to let them know. And like the other thing, again, I don't think they've forgotten about PvP as much as I think it's neglected. But dude, the fact that the server names are still from Greymore.
Oh yeah.
You don't even update the names anymore. They used to update them every year.
Yeah.
They literally don't even change the names. It's like, come on, man. Like that.
I've really
like,
forgotten about.
That's what it's like stuff like that. Does it matter in the grand scheme of things? No. Who the hell cares what the name of the server is? But at the same time, it just looks like they're not even paying attention. Just optics matters a lot more than sometimes people want to admit it does. That's a bad optic, man. Like that sucks. That looks like, oh yeah, I guess we do still have Cyrodiil since 2020. It's like, oh man, like just give it some better names. Like
that's a good point, actually. I never thought about the names.
When they name them after dragons, that was quite difficult.
That was weird.
Yeah, Calgronti. Yeah. And then we had the tribunal names for a while.
Oh, they were okay. Like,
they were all right. And like honestly, Grey Hosts and stuff like that, those are fine. Yeah. But like, okay, we had the Gates of Oblivion. Name them different Planes of Oblivion. Like, I don't know, anything. Yeah. Like anything just to acknowledge that they're still aware that they're there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Housing slots. I don't think that's a feature. That's more of like a request, and that's
that's a quality of life that is straight up not happening till we ditch last gen.
Yeah, exactly. Dungeon leaderboards.
I don't think we will get it. On the flip side, if people want that, I'm fine with that. I would never pay attention to that. I do, other than the rare instances where we did something and we're number one on the leaderboard, or when I learned a DPS and I was number 2 in VMA for the week and number 1 in Vatashram for the week, whereas like, look, I'm less shit now. I don't think I've ever even opened the leaderboard things. It's not of interest to me personally, but I'm always like, hey, whatever, not everything needs to be for me. So if that would be something people want, sure, at it. Like but I don't think we're going to. Like I would be surprised.
New class or new skill line.
Same problem as the housing slots.
They
think people would love it, but
skill line's more likely. But again, wonder what.
Right? Yeah, I think the skill line's more likely. You know, but then new skill line, is that really a major thing? Compared to a system like spellcrafting that uses in-game assets already, you know? Like,
we had like Sigic Order, didn't we? And
with
that was Somerset. But Somerset was also jewelry crafting.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That was a system.
Antiquities, that's kind of a skill line, but there's more to it.
That's also a system.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, a really good point from chat. In update 36, they took away a feature, the feature to block.
Well,
that's fixed, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's fixed.
It's fixed as long. So it's fixed as long as you don't bar swap too many times.
Oh my lord!
It's if you bar swap without unsheathing your weapons first.
That's what it is, yeah.
Okay.
Which it's rare that I run into that. It's usually me being stupid and like I'm fidgety, so I'm just like bar, like while we're running. And I've learned to not do that because that screws everything up. And I'm like, oh, I'm not blocking anymore. Oh, I've ruined the run. Like, I'm sorry. But for the most part, yeah, no, they got that under control, luckily, because that was a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Overland difficulty.
So this is another one that's interesting. Because I feel like there's a lot of directions for overland difficulty, more than just make overland harder.
Mhm.
One of the things that I've kind of been saying that I would like to see more is something, I don't know necessarily in terms of like progging, but something really fucking elaborate in terms of like you can overpower it by being really good, or you can organize a lot of people. Dragons sort of like, okay, they're more difficult than other world bosses, but still whatever. The walking world boss idea or the wandering world, that was kind of neat. But again, like they're not super difficult type of thing, especially with a decent amount of people. So there's the potential of you bringing a group of 12 because we have a smaller group count now, but like you can bring your own raid team essentially to any world boss you want. And there's a potential for other randoms to show up. Why does nothing have the same degree of health as like a trial boss where you literally only have 12 people? Like the dragons flying around in Elsewhere have what, 15 million health or something like that? The dragons in Sunspire hard mode have like 138 million, and you only can have 12 people fighting them. I would like some actually like difficult overworld things that require some coordination to do. Or you go in with a trial team and we're like, yeah, well, we're all beasts, so we're going to take this down with just the 12 of us, like type of deal. I think that would be interesting because one of the biggest problems that, I mean, I run into a lot, and I know a lot of other people do, is sometimes progging a roster is harder than progging the thing you're trying to do. So, like, it would be kind of cool if I could get, okay, well, not all my friends are on the same page as me. Some are way better than me. Some are not as interested in the game and they play super casually. Well, what if I could get 30 of us to go do a raid boss basically in the open world? That'd be kind of fun. Like, and it would still be challenging enough. More people could actually engage with it. I don't really think they should stop doing trial stuff by any means, but just like as another form of difficult thing to do that could get more people involved and stuff like that, where, yeah, you could take it down with just raw numbers, but like, how many people are going to coordinate 50 people to go attack something? Probably not that many. Whereas you're going to have randoms showing up to help out. Maybe if it's an actual involved fight, maybe you actually bump into some people who you see are pretty good. Maybe you end up forming a team out of that, something like that. I don't know. I like that idea of making overworld harder with like legitimately harder things that are not just face rolled by like 12 people and something like that. Just, it seems weird to me, the dichotomy of like trials are just, the amount of health and damage they do is so huge compared to things that are in the open world where you get way more people involved with it. It's just like, I don't know. I wish there was a way that like you could have that type of difficulty at certain points, and the story, honestly, the crap when you're going through the story, like the chuds just running around, dude, I don't want to spend more than 4 seconds killing all these assassins and bandits and skeevers coming out of drain pipes. But like, yeah, the bosses, I personally would like to take a little, at least let them finish their speech before they die. That would be better. So I would be on board with that. I know there's definitely people who don't like that. So an option for it of some way, like a banner before it, like, you know what I mean? It's like a hard mode banner before your quest, because usually quests are instanced for like your final boss fight a lot of times. At least I think.
Okay. Yeah.
just for that part, because I don't know a lot of people who want the trash going to the story to take them longer. It's just the boss itself. I think a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people, I think, would like to be at least moderately more challenging for your big bad. And, if it's an option, then it's not a big deal. And, the option of, well, you can take off your CP and fight it naked. Yeah, okay. I can also, break half my controller off. And so you can do a lot of things to make things harder, but which is, you do you, but like in the same way that I would like other people to play how they want, I'd also like to be able to play how I want. It's a two-way street here. Like, so the option I think would be kind of cool.
All right. Last thing on the list, and the other thing is spellcrafting, but we were talking about. So.
Yeah, right.
All right, but like in so far, like compared to spellcrafting, though, it's like I don't know if any of these are likely compared to spellcrafting. All right, next one, last one, reward system.
Yeah, and that so needs to be.
Yeah. What if that's it? Because you remember that customer survey they sent out?
Yeah.
Like there's no way they don't know. Because they asked specific.
No, I know they do.
There's no way they don't know.
And it's not a one-to-one parallel of, well, if we give people more stuff, they'll buy less stuff. That is categorically false, as it's constantly proven everywhere. That it's just like, that's not how it works. The amount of revenue drop off, but player satisfaction, so they're in the game more, so they probably buy more anyway. It's like, there's no way. At worst, it's a wash. Like, and it's probably you're just going to make people happier, so they'll just enjoy stuff more. So it's like, there's absolutely just more options for ways to earn different things, not even just the same thing. The fact that, like, okay, the Antiquities mount is really cool. There's still no mount for anything from PvP. There's no mount for anything from any 4-player content. There's no mount from any story-based content. It's literally Antiquities, just the stable out front, or the free one they give you for leveling up, or trials. That's it. Or
Crown Store.
Crown Store, or if you want to do endeavors like that. That's just kind of. I like that. That's accessible. Oh, and the event thing. Kind of not fair to include that, because that technically is I guess a PvP way of doing it, just in open world. So.
I don't know, man. I would take a reward system over spellcrafting.
like an actual
actual reward system. Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like probably most people would. I think a lot of people would. Honestly.
Yeah. Especially if you add in all these things, like you said, with the achievement points, like being able to earn something with that.
Yeah, I just like that as a mile. I like working toward things, like doing a one run, like. Trifectas, I have a lot of fun doing. Like they're super fun doing trifecta runs. But that's really getting to the point of being good enough that you just have that one run that works correctly the first time. Like everything syncs up. And then, as it becomes second nature, you can do it over and over and over again and stuff like that. But it's really like about getting everybody on the team on the same page, and you get that perfect run for your group, and you get what you were looking for. But there's kind of like only so much progress. Like a lot of people don't want to just die 5,000 times trying to get something correct. And that's fine. I get that. Sometimes I don't want to do that. It's a certain type of play style. But that's part of the game. And like a lot of people enjoy that, myself included. I wish there were more things you could work toward, like making progress. They're really crappy achievements that have no value, but just as a reference point, the things of like kill 1,000 Dwemer stuff. Well, that you worked toward that. Granted, it didn't give you anything. I think it gave you a die, maybe. I don't know. It was base game achievement,
something like that. Yeah,
but like stuff like that, maybe not so crappy as just like kill this amount of things. Like a little more involved. But that's where like I like the idea of being able to slowly work towards something. As well.
And every time you put some time into it, you get something out of it, even that little bit of progress. Because I think this is why I found defensive. Yeah, this is why I found defensive execution so annoying. Because sometimes you'd play like 2 or 3 battlegrounds in a row and make 0 progress.
Yeah, that was I assume most people in Battlegrounds don't like me. At least when you're on my team, you probably love me when I'm on the other team because I'm doing something stupid rather than the objective. But when I was trying to get my relic carrier kills, I got the relic captures super easy, but you need to get 100 captures, and then there's 100 relic carrier kills.
Yeah, so you just stand
So
and wait for
sitting
people
in
to
the
pick it
shrub,
up.
waiting for them to pick it up, and then I would just like dive out of the shrub and hit them with everything I had. And then I wouldn't even pick up the relic to return. I would go back into my shrub and I'm like, good, maybe somebody will think that I died and they'll come and get it too. And I'm like, dude, everybody is just like, what is the matter? This guy hasn't left the home base. He's a piece of shit. He's not even helping. Like, what the fuck? Like,
Defending, kind of.
yeah, I'm kind of defending. But then also, I look like a total chode when the dude is like super durable and books it out with streaks 9 times. I'm like, sorry guys, I totally just let them score. Had I just bashed him, we would have been fine. But no biggie. I hope nobody was trying to get their daily because I fucked it up for all of us. But like,
yeah. When you can see some progress every time you put some time into it, that's rewarding in itself.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes it kind of caps off a bit too quickly, and like you reach that max level far too quick. Like,
oh yeah,
you know, a new DLC will come out and you'll hit the like kill 500 whatever after 2 or 3 times in the dungeon. It's like,
yeah.
well, okay, well I don't need to go there anymore.
Right.
Um,
Same way that they release motifs like 4 months after the dungeon comes out, and they're like,
Yeah,
"You want to go
that's-
back in and farm?" I was like, "No, I already have the trifecta. I want to like buy it off a guild trader because I'm not doing that."
Yeah. Especially when, I mean, for people that like reaching max achievement points, when that's not actually possible in a patch because they haven't released.
Yeah, because they haven't
Motif,
actually
yeah,
released it. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh no, that always weirds me
So
out because
annoying.
it'll go back up and like my progress bar will go back down because now there's more points in that category. And I'm like, what? I thought I finished that one. It's like, oh wait, they added motifs that aren't there yet. Like, cool.
Yeah,
And I get it. They're trying to delay it out to either get you to re-engage or just go to the crown store and buy it. That's fine. I get the logic to it. It's dumb. It doesn't matter if I get the logic to it. It's stupid. Like, don't do
yeah,
that.
that's fine, but just remove it from the achievement list.
Yeah,
so
don't
I
add it
can-
to the
so I can
achievements
get
before it's there.
100%.
Like,
Yeah.
right.
Previously, you said you work with UESP and you're like a lore master, basically, right?
I know lore. I would hardly classify myself as a master of anything. Because especially with Elder Scrolls Lorecast, the like much more lore focused show I do, Tales of Tamriel, much more related to roundtable discussion, kind of like this. Granted, we're just directly sponsored by UESP, but like roundtable discussion, heavy emphasis on ESO, but it covers all aspects of the series. Whereas Elder Scrolls Lorecast, the idea is much more condensed. They're about an hour long, and we pick a topic, and then we go from there. Yeah, I research the shit before every episode. I don't just know this stuff.
Oh, okay.
my brain can't keep that much data jammed in it. Like, I know some weird stuff, but hell no. Like, not a chance. There are people way more in depth than I am. Aramithius is somebody from the community. He from Written in Uncertainty podcast. Shout out to him. He knows what's up, and even he looks stuff up. Like, that's just it. This series is complicated as fuck, man. Like, but yeah. So it's just like I enjoy it. So I like looking it up and reading all the stories and learning this stuff, but also when people get super neckbeardy about like, well, actually this isn't it's like, shut the fuck up. It's made up. Like, it's fiction. Like, so, you know, they change it on a fly. Like, that's the thing. And that's the fun part of like, oh yeah, you don't know where that's going to take you next and stuff like that. And it makes it interesting. But like, if you get too obnoxious about it, it's like, you're spending a lot of time learning something that they might need to change later. And there's a MacGuffin in the series called the Dragon Break that they can just write their way out of anything they want anyways. So I can't get that deep into the like, well, it's got to be this way or got to be this way. No, they're guidelines, and like the series is referred to as like the gray maybe and stuff like that because it's all nebulous as shit. Like, that's all the stuff you're hearing about in game is written from other characters in game. So what if he's just a liar? Like,
Yeah,
well, then you're reciting wrong information. It's one of the things that makes it pretty unique that I really like about it, because it gives you the chance to have discussion. And as long as you're not a jackass, like, it's kind of interesting to have people have different takes on stuff. And as long as it's like, oh, well, I think this because of this, whereas somebody else is like, well, I think this because of this. I think that makes it really cool and unique to just that type of fiction. Like, that's pretty interesting to me and gives you a lot of room for debate, as well as other things that it's just like, oh, that's like the real world, where a lot of stuff isn't
Oh, yeah.
quite as cut and dry as it really would be easier if it just was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get into like Elder Scrolls lore from the games before, or like when did that start?
So my first Elder Scrolls game was Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind on the original Xbox, which is not the ideal way to play that game at all. I didn't even own an Xbox. I used to go over my friend's house actually after school, where we would just like hang out, shoot the shit. People would come over, and I would periodically just pick up his Xbox if nobody was using it, and I just play random games. And one of them I picked up. I was like, "What the hell is this?" Because it looked like a brown book, like a leather binding book. And he was like, oh, "I don't think you'll like that game very much," because I used to like play shooters and sports games, and that was kind of my thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, well, what is?" So I put it in, and I'm like, "What the hell is this?" And I'm bumbling around, and I'm like, you can do literally anything I want in this. I'm gonna just kill this person and take their house, and I did. And I was like, "What the hell? Like, what kind of game is this?" And at first, I got sucked in just because it was so weird. And then I played it a probably unhealthy amount of gameplay time, where my friend was like, "Please stop coming over my house every day after school and playing this. Just buy your own goddamn Xbox." Like, and I did, and I played it a bunch more, and it kind of like got me into the series. And then from there on, each game came out, I really enjoyed it. And as I just kept playing them, I kind of got more interested in like, oh, what's the background story to this? And that's where you go down like the rabbit hole of the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages and stuff. And it's just like, oh, this connects to this and this and this and this. And as of late, I actually haven't really been streaming or posting on YouTube much ESO stuff, the way I've been going through all of the classics. I completed Elder Scrolls 1 Arena. I completed Elder Scrolls A Legend Battle Spire. Currently, I'm right now playing through the Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall. And then I'm going to play the N-Gage game, ShadowKhaleesi. I had to get an N-Gage for that. It's yeah, there's a lot of them. But
you play the mobile game?
Blades.
Yeah.
I liked Blades, but Blades, I ran out of quests in Blades so fast. And same thing with the card game. I really like there's actually a really good storyline. Granted, all the combat's through cards, but in Elder Scrolls Legends, I was like, oh yeah, this actually has some like cool story bits to it. It's kind of weird that it's a card game, but all right, like whatever, I'm on board. But it didn't stay afloat. But playing through all of those, it's interesting to see the series changing, but also like when I would play through Elder Scrolls Arena, you straight up go to Fang Lair in Arena. You go to Selene's Web in Arena. I'm like, dude, this is so cool. Like they really do a lot of callbacks with ESO to the original games and stuff like that. One of the things that I thought was the weirdest, there's a pickpocket item called a Startooth. It's a purple quality pickpocket item that you can get in ESO. That is the main quest item to Elder Scrolls Travel ShadowKhaleesi that was only released on the N-Gage. Like that is a weird deep cut that like me and probably 9 people got, and we're like, wow, okay, you're digging deep for some of this stuff. That's just cool. So that's kind of how I got into all the lore stuff. Just the more I played them, the more I liked the series, the more I just kind of tried to learn about the series.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know Rich has said like when they think about doing like yearly celebrations and things like that, like Halloween and the New Life and stuff, they always make sure it's lore appropriate.
Yeah, it's not going to wreck too much.
Yeah, which I think people appreciate.
Especially I like Zealous Zenithar so much. I thought that was kind of cool because it didn't need to relate directly to our holiday, and it was like, I don't RP or any of that stuff. Like, more power to you if you're that creative. I'm not. But like, that's that's whatever. One of the things that I just thought, I was like, oh, this seems really cool from that perspective would be if you talk to the person, you're just like, oh, I want Zenithar's blessing, and right before the event, and you go get it, and then you go run amok. If you didn't want to do that, she'd be like, oh, that's fine if you don't actually like pray to Zenithar. I'll just ask for a blessing on your behalf so that you don't have to offend your God. I was like, oh, that's like a cool little touch that like I would assume you'd appreciate if you actually wrote a story about to your background character. My story is always I'm a murder hobo and give me everything. Like that's not creative.
Dude, how important do you think is lore though when it comes to like the MMO aspect of the game? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean,
so
look at the Crown Store though. How's that?
Yeah.
How's any of that?
Yeah,
like lore?
Right. And some of it is really cringe because they do some of it they try to explain. It's like, oh God, like
The unicorn.
don't. But like some of it's fine. I personally don't really like high fantasy stuff all that much. And everything, like if you look at when the game launched or even a year or so after, dude, I remember thinking, I have no idea whatever the V-Mall skin is called. I actually don't know what it is.
Dromothra.
With Dromothra skin,
yeah.
maybe just like because you're a Dromothra. I guess maybe that's just the name of the skin. But like that, for example, I was like, oh, that's weird. That's dealing with some really weird side stuff. Like, okay, so this is pretty metaphysical. Okay, cool. So you get this weird, freaky one. This is like some high fantasy. And now that looks so fucking tame compared to just like, yeah, and my space mount flies in with magical rainbows. I'm like, good God, man. Like that stuff is really not for me. I get people like that, so whatever. If most people want that stuff, because clearly they do, because everybody buys it, and I walk into Mournhold and everybody's running around with it. But it's like I prefer the lower fantasy stuff. I still ride around on the first Guar they sold in the Crown Store for like 500 crowns.
Yeah,
that's still my mount.
Gray horses and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer that stuff personally. And like depending upon how much of a stickler you are, I totally get if that irritates you because I think it's a little ridiculous. It's so off the rails with stuff like that. I don't know. I definitely prefer the low fantasy type of thing. And you can have magic and all sorts of wacky crap, but like everybody's got like I thought those celestial mounts looked awesome, but I'm like, dude, this is so ridiculous. Like, why am I riding around on a constellation? What is happening? So like that's just not for me personally. And I don't think, and I think unfortunately, although it's a selling point, I think that's why a lot of people still really, other than the longstanding joke of the game's been dead since 3 weeks before it launched. But outside that, a lot of people are just like, oh yeah, Elder Scrolls Online exists, but it doesn't really relate to the main series. I don't think that really helps that argument, having all this wacky shit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, the series is weird, man. Like, until you go through and play Battlespire, which I don't suggest anybody actually do, that series gets fucking weird, dude. Like, there is some weird, like, well, you have sex with a Daedra.
What?
Yep. You take damage.
Where's this game?
Yep, it goes to a black screen. You get a weird, red pulsing sound, and you actually take damage from having sex with her.
Wait,
it's
like
weird.
Like that flame match on that copy pasta?
Like it's more of like the
Reddit.
It's like a succubus thing, but it's the original version of a dark seducer. Yeah. So the series gets weird.
Wait. Do you know about that flame metro copy pasta from Reddit?
Is that the one?
Hold on.
Is that the thing about burning your dick?
Hold on, I gotta look this up. All right, here it is. I am going to have sex with this female flame matronac from Oblivion. I find the flame matronacs in the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion sexy.
Alrighty.
However, their body is made up of 87% fire, and 100% fire surrounds them. That could kill me if I tried to have sex with one. To remedy this, the flame matronac casts a spell on me, making me resistant to fire. Keep in
Casting
mind,
that
resistant
stone
is not
flesh.
the same as immune. I still take damage. You know, it's like, and when you said like you take damage during the scene, I'm like, yo, this is the pasta.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is based on an actual game thing. Also, do you think that's like a real equation? Like he calculated 85% of it's actually lava, and the other 15% is like the rock bit or something? Like,
Oh my god. But yeah, okay, yeah, you're going on about Daedric sex. All right, I did not know this.
yeah, no. So the series gets
Maybe
pretty
that's a
weird.
new
There's some,
feature.
yeah, there's some cringy shit in the old games, like for real. Like the series was hard 90s weirdness. Like some of this shit did not age well. There's a reason, like when they post about Arena, a lot of times they actually use like a modified version of what the cover of the game looks like. Because it doesn't even make it like it is so 90s where it's just like, oh, you have like this paladin, you have this wizard, and you have this chick wearing a piece of string. It's like, oh, all right, well, that's probably not gonna really go over as much anymore. Like, so yeah, the series has some weird roots, and you know, you get into some of the deep lore, and that's where people sometimes get weird with what they latch onto, and I think that causes a lot of the like awkward, like when people get really into the storyline stuff, you get some weird stuff that makes people uncomfortable, and I get it, because like Molag Ball's like not the whole thing with that and like the directions that the 36 lessons takes. Dude, if you read the 36 lessons of Vivek, it's just like, okay, this gets a little disturbing in some weird ways. So like I get that stuff's kind of get pushed to the background more than some of the other stuff they're kind of go with. But then it's also stays like I like the grittiness of it because it is an M-rated series, so I'm fine with that. But doubling down on some of the things that it's like, all right, maybe that's a weird thing to double down on in this day and age, just because you've become more aware of situations. Like, oh yeah, that's actually pretty fucking cringe and doesn't really add anything to the story. Maybe that doesn't need to be the focus. It can still be there or whatever, but it's just like some people really insist on making that the forefront of stuff where it's like, there's better writing and stuff like that. And some of the older games definitely struggle with that shit.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, like you say, the fact that the lore is kind of coming from the universe and from the characters rather than like novels, or
Yeah.
it kind of makes it a little bit more interesting and nuanced. And the things you don't like, you can kind of just compartmentalize in your own.
Yeah. Or,
thinking.
sometimes it just needs better explaining or,
Mm.
some of the art styles in some of the old games. Like people have warned me that I'm probably going to get banned from either Twitch or get like a strike from Twitch or YouTube posting it. Dude, everybody's topless. There's dicks waving around and stuff. It's like fucking.
Yeah, and there were like photorealistic textures as well, which are a bit
Yeah, back
creepy.
in the day, it's like, oh, this pixel art is like cutting edge, and it's just like, okay, well, everybody in this temple is a stripper for some reason, and it's just like that's because this is the '90s. That's why everybody is a stripper. Like that's does that add anything to the story? Nah, it doesn't seem to. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I think Twitch is okay with that kind of shit though. After Cyberpunk,
yeah. Also,
Mm.
I don't do this for a living, so I'll do what I want until I get banned, I guess.
right.
Like
Yeah.
people are interested in seeing the old games. Well, the problem was also like one of the times I don't know, I answered a phone call or something on stream and I just happened to be mid conversation with somebody that was topless. They're like, this is totally gonna like not go well because he's gonna be on the phone for like 5 minutes and this is literally all that's on screen. And I came back, was like, that is real awkward. I did not realize that that's where I walked away from the keyboard. I was like, whoops. So, but nah, it's never mattered. But it's just like, again, a lot of times now, some of the stuff, honestly, like it's not even a little, it's definitely more accessible, both in like a good way because the writing is not as cringe in some aspects. But the other thing is, at points, like the series always has humor to it. Sometimes I feel ESO might have too many accessible jokey quests where it becomes more jarring when they deal with darker subject matter.
What do you mean by that?
So like you've got characters like Roz and stuff like that everybody loves, and like there's a lot of easygoing, like jovial. From the outside perspective, it seems like ESO is for everybody. And then you get into some of these weird situations where it's just like, after you beat Clockwork City, for example, this isn't even like the most extreme. You can talk to Sothasil out in his gardens in the Clockwork City. The dude is having an existential crisis and all this shit. And it's like, some people I find it's just like going from jovial joking in a lot of aspects to some of the more serious concepts that the series does deal with. I feel like oftentimes, because they portray it as like it's so accessible for people, but at the same time, like it's M-rated. So like they kind of do also deal with dark shit too. And it seems like sometimes I wonder if the fact that both sides are catered to a degree causes some of the problem where those two groups might not overlap so well. They might like the series for two different things. And when you stumble into something really off color, it's like, okay, that's like awkward as shit. And I think that might be why sometimes they get like weird blowback, just because it's been a fun thing for them where they're just like, oh yeah, there's these fun characters and blah, blah, blah. And then it's just like, okay, this is the history, which they didn't even go into, which is fine. But like the way the Bretons came about is not the most pleasant thing. Right. So
bloody,
bloody and you know, very assaulty. So
yeah.
When you look into that stuff, if that's not what you're expecting, I can see that being like, ugh, God, what the fuck is this? Which I like both aspects of it, as long as it's got like proper context and it's not just like, hey, here's shock value, because nothing screams poor writing like shock value for the sake of shock value. But like when things are shocking because of whatever, that's fine as long as it's got like context to it and stuff like that. And I just wonder if that's sometimes why people get a little thrown off by certain parts of the series, because it feels like they wrote a full world, which includes a lot of different things, which might not appeal to everybody. So
I get what you're saying. I think something similar to what you're exactly actually what you're describing happened with the Fire Song DLC. I don't know if you remember this, but
yes,
some people were upset about this. Was it a side quest or it was a part? I don't remember.
If it was a side quest.
I don't know. I haven't even done the Fire Song.
But yeah, there's an assault section where there are captives, and
these druidic women are held captives, and it's implied that they were raped by these pirates, Malmer.
And by Malmer. So like that's one of those things where it's like when I that did not click to me. When somebody said that, I was like, oh shit, yeah, all right, I can see what you're saying. The problem is with these weird gray area things is, well, all of those people in that group were women. So like, okay, that's a context. I'm as a dude, I guess maybe I just didn't default seeing that. So like my brain didn't go there, but it was like, oh, okay. Like, because the line was something like, let's have a little bit of fun before we eat. And it's just like, oh, okay. Like, I'm thinking like, yeah, they're going to torture these people.
I mean, rape is torture, right?
Right. It totally is. But I'm thinking like, when I'm not thinking of that, I was
thinking
I know.
Like, oh, yeah, thinking of
we'll feed them to saber cats or whatever. Yeah. But then when people took it in that direction, I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. All right. I can totally understand what you're saying. And for example, did that throwaway line matter to the overall thing? No, they changed it because they were like, well, okay, we don't need to just, if enough people have this and it's like, oh, okay, I can see that being interpreted. They changed it. Okay, fine. It didn't really modify the quest. That's whatever. Yeah, it's said differently now. That part of the thing is dropped. Yeah, it's not in the
really.
Yeah, they rewrote the line so that it's clear. As far as from what I remember from it being on PTS to being what it is now, it's definitely more implied that they're just going to kill them. Like, okay, we'll just like execute them pretty much, and less ambiguous.
But what do people think happens before you kill people in war or in like? You know what I
Right.
mean?
It's
Banditry.
not pleasant. That's yeah. Spoilers. As humans, we don't have a great track record.
No, yeah.
We really don't.
Yeah.
So like it's stuff like that that I understand what people are saying. Where it's just like, oof, but that's also the problem of, you know,
accessibility to
accessibility. Yeah, you're not going, like, it didn't seem like they were going out of their way when writing that, from my understanding, to make people feel uncomfortable like that. As much as just like, yeah, well, we're gonna kill. So it's like, I don't know. It's definitely something that I understand, and then you've got everybody who's like, oh, that's woke or that's anti-woke or whatever, and it's just like, I don't know, man. Like,
I think
if you're going out of your way to just make people uncomfortable, that's fucking weird just as much as the other side.
Well, like you said,
I don't
like
know.
context,
Whatever
really
they want to
matters,
write.
right? Like lore-wise, context should matter. Like,
Right.
I think there's a reason why people, I don't know if anyone complained, but there's a scene in which Mola Ball, right, rapes Lame Ball, essentially.
Yeah, the background story of
During the-
vampires
yeah.
is fucking screwed up. Yeah,
exactly.
it's,
And Molag Bal is also the Prince of Rape, and he's the main bad dude in the entire game.
correct.
So it's
Yeah.
like, where were all these complaints before? You know what I mean?
That
Like,
and that's always the thing which relates to that is like you've got these weird things in the lore that they basically are just like, okay, they're definitely going more with the domination aspect, which still kind of includes all of that, but they're
Yeah.
focusing more on that going forward, which it's like, okay, you're still getting the point across. Anybody who's maybe dealt with something fucking horrific like that isn't overtly getting triggered by the fact it's like, cool, my escape game needs to constantly remind me of this fucking horrible thing. It's like, okay, well, that's fine. They're focusing on another aspect, but they're also not like necessarily, it's still there, but not the focus overtly. So like there's ways of writing without ditching it type of thing. So I understand why they might try to work toward that to make it accessible, but also at the same time, keep it where it's unfortunately parodies real life a lot. One of the big things that the series, again, I assume from people who don't know how to read, are like, well, why do they have to make it political? Are you kidding? The Elder Scrolls game is literally as political
Yeah,
as
I hate
like
that
it can
shit too.
physically.
Everything's political. so-
Well, everything, sure, but it's like this series is based around this made-up fantasy world's politics. That is the story. Like it can't not be. Like it's weird. Like even Alduin the Dragon's coming to blow us all up. Well, surprise, the dragons have a political structure that they adhere. Like
Right.
there's no escaping it. Like it's part of the series. Like, so if you don't like that, then yeah, I get being annoyed. So then don't play
there's
Elder Scrolls. Then
plenty
this
of
is
other
not a good
content.
game for that. Like,
even in almost any other game, I hate it when people bring up, I don't know, when a game developer, posts a fucking rainbow flag or whatever on social media. They're like, oh, don't bring politics into the game. I'm just like, motherfucker, like Call of Duty or Halo or fucking any of these games. It's literally about politics. It's about genocide. It's about wars. What do you mean? What are you talking about, bro?
What people actually mean is please don't be political in a way that I don't want you to be political in.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what it actually. Please
They just don't want
say
to see that
something
shit.
that I
And then,
disagree with. Right.
Yeah, exactly. They just want to see certain shit. And it's like, well, okay,
Sure. Yeah.
maybe go just say that, and okay, cool.
Yeah.
whatever.
So in Cyberpunk, there's one of the characters that had like a trans flag on the back of her truck, and you could unlock her truck. And then the top mod on the thing was an add-on to remove the flag because like, I want my truck, but I don't want a trans flag on the back of it.
What the
Pathetic.
Call me like, I don't know, much more simple. Dude, how do people have enough time to put this much fucking thought into being offended by this shit?
I don't know. Like, if just move on if you're offended by it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get it.
Right, and it's
like-
my big thing is like if it's not, but like if you are that opposed to something, man, this is gonna. I hope you didn't want this video monetized. I'm sure YouTube's gonna fucking nuke you. But like anything with that, it's like somebody says something, along the lines of like, I don't support gay marriage. Then don't marry somebody of the same sex. Like, whatever. Like, nobody's making you. Leave other people alone. Like, what is the fucking problem? Like, let people do their own thing. If it's not directly fucking with you, leave them alone. Like,
yeah, opinions are getting more and more polarized, I feel.
well,
like,
because
all the time. There's no middle ground
unfortunately,
anymore.
it has switched from I want to better the situation to I want to be right. It's not about finding a correct answer. It's about winning the argument. And if you can lose the argument but find the correct answer, I'll lose every fucking argument there is. I don't care. Like, if it makes the situation better, then cool. I'm just wrong about everything. That's not the point. I don't need to win. I want things to be less shit, like in any aspect of stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't know. It's just kind of weird. Do you remember that? What was it? The Pride March that Locke hosted?
Oh yeah, that Locke did. Yeah.
And you see some of these fucking comments on Twitter.
They're
saying, bringing politics into the ESO.
Like,
I love.
Okay. Argonians can shift their gender. That's part of the lore. Is that?
I was
Is that? So shouldn't you just need to accept that then? Because in this universe, that's just a normal thing. Like, I don't.
Oh, shocked as shit.
Yeah, it's just like it's
people are like, don't
ridiculous.
bring
Like,
politics to the ESO. I'm like, bro, there's the PvP is about the like every. I don't know. It's just
literal PvP. Like,
come on, I don't know what to say.
The title Emperor implies a political structure.
I don't get it. Whatever.
So that's what I mean. It's just, I wish people would just like, don't look for reasons to be offended. Like, just, if it doesn't directly impact you, you don't need to have a fucking opinion on everything. Like, it doesn't need, it's fine. I don't have lots of opinions on lots of things. Like, and sometimes my opinions, people are like, that's stupid. And I'm like, all right, well, fair enough. Like,
that's fine. I'm not trying to make the laws about it.
Yeah, right.
Doesn't matter.
Correct. Luckily, I'm not in a situation where I need to have a governing body that I need to keep, everything like that. It's like, yeah, sweet. Like, I'm glad I don't have that responsibility personally.
Yeah. Totally.
But yeah, so I brought lore up earlier because, okay, so I have this crazy, like, not conspiracy. I just have this suspicion, all right? Can I just tell you my suspicion?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so
I like crazy suspicions.
Okay. So
let's get weird. Everybody get your tinfoil hat.
Okay, so this past year, I made a video with me reacting to this Reddit post, and it was like a Reddit post that was starting to trend, right? And this Reddit post was talking about how like High Isle and like pretty much 2022 was not a very good year for lore, and they did it and they critiqued it in a very like harsh way, like very unexpectedly, because whenever I go to ESO Reddit, it's always very positive, right? So it's like a very different tone from what I would find on the Reddit.
Right.
It was very harsh. And then like a couple of days after I made the video went out of me just like reading it out loud and just having fun with it, Rich posted a tweet. Do you remember this tweet where he was like comparing two hypothetical fans?
Is this about the story that's the greatest story?
Yeah. You remember doing it, and then it was deleted because there was so much backlash because people thought he was talking about I don't know how to say this, like
yeah, people either thought the problem is sometimes I need to just remind myself, even though I think I have something that's pretty like reasonable and not like doubling down telling somebody to fuck off, people take things in weird directions that sometimes I don't expect them to. And that was certainly a tweet that I actually did not think was that big of a deal, where it was like Group
it was
A,
kind of like a game dev general.
Right. Group comment. This is the greatest story I've ever seen. I love you guys. Group B, you are the worst group of devs. You should all be fired and or possibly kill yourselves, was essentially how people were taking that in a lot of situations. Like, to varying degrees. That was about like the extreme ends. And his response was /shrug. Like, and people took that as
personal. Within the context of ESO. I looked at it
where
as
it was like,
the
oh, they don't care whether we like it or not. Or, you know, and I'm like, dude, I'm pretty sure he's... so my thing, which I actually say a lot, you literally can't please everybody.
Oh, yeah.
It's not possible. And I always, like, when I read that, I liked that tweet and immediately thought he's saying, like, some people loved the story. Some people think it's total shit. I released what we released. You can't please everybody. That was how I took that statement. And actually, I messaged him just because I was like, wow, that got a lot of traction. And he was just like shaking my head. I was like, okay, well, yeah, that's, and that was just it. Because like, he clearly didn't think it was going in the directions of the way that it was taken. Because, well, see, it doesn't matter whether it's a good story or a bad story. They don't care about our feedback or stuff like that. And some people were totally polite about it and just took it in a weird direction. Some people were obviously super aggressive. And I was like, this is not at all how I read this. Like,
I just think it was a very poorly timed.
Well, that's unfortunately something that so Rich went from kind of being a fan favorite to being like the whipping boy.
You think
I've
so?
noticed. Yes, because once he didn't have his stream anymore, he gets dunked on a lot now. Whereas when he was able to stream and talk to people, it seemed like a lot of people liked Rich. I was going to say there was all the excitement over the Elsewhere thing, where if he got enough things, he was going to get a tattoo, and people seemed like really entertained by it and stuff like that. And I mean, you've met Rich. I've hung out with Rich. Rich is a super chill dude
in person.
Yeah,
I have not.
Oh, you haven't?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay. Well, Rich is a super chill person, and he drinks way more beer than I can, and to stay upright. But Rich is like a nice dude. Now, what he wants might not match with what a lot of people want. So, like, okay, I can understand people not necessarily vibing with that, but it seems like, from an outsider perspective, since he's kind of got this whole, well, maybe not even just specifically him, ZOS kind of has this stigma where the game has got a very negative atmosphere around it more than it used to. Maybe not at launch, then it was the most dunked on. Now it's just moderately dunked on. But the thing is, like, when Rich posts stuff, sometimes I wonder if people are looking for a reason to be upset with it, or if, like you said, it just kind of, the timing of them tends to be at not great times. He posted his first 100K parse directly after the nerf, and people were like, well, yeah, you buffed the trial dummy, you piece of shit. And I'm like, one, that's like incredibly aggressive. But two, I was like, I get him being excited about that. Like, as a player.
That's normal.
But it was like right after everybody was talking about that. So it comes across as very disingenuous. Do I think he meant it that way? I don't get that impression personally. Call me naive or whatever. But it's like, I think the timing on a lot of the stuff really doesn't land. And as a result, people think that he's being super shady about stuff. Because again, him, Finn, they don't pretend the game is just perfect and works all the time. Like, you've run trials with them and stuff like that. Like, but like, they're aware of when the game fucks up. Like, they're not totally clueless to that situation. So I've never got the idea that he's specifically being disingenuous, but the timing on stuff, man, he'll post something and then something dramatic will happen. And it's like, well, now it looks like this. Like, woof, man. Like, you got a dark cloud of bad timing floating around you, it seems like. So
yeah. So my perspective of that specific tweet was like, just a player celebrating a milestone. Like,
yes.
And I also put it this way to some people, it's like, well, if someone else put that after like, let's say a player put on Twitter or whatever, or Discord, hey, I got 100K after update 35. Would you shit on that person? Probably not. You know what I mean?
Probably,
Like,
probably not.
Yeah,
because
you know
it's
what I
not a high-profile person.
Yeah.
most
So
likely.
I take it as that, but I think with that specific tweet, there was also, I don't know if this wasn't like, if this is something he didn't know, but he replied to one of the people saying something about how like the dummy wasn't buffed or whatever. I don't
Yeah, which
is
I
like,
do remember that, which is just wrong.
I think that's what got most people. You know what I mean?
Sure, and that there's not that there's no way, but if he didn't know that, that is very concerning.
Exactly. I think that's what most people caught on to. But the
yeah,
initial reaction to his tweet was plain wrong, in my opinion.
right, and so I assume he did know that it had gotten a buff or whatever.
Maybe underestimated it.
Yeah, but like the thing with stuff like that is, it's because of who Rich is that he's getting like that type of feedback, as opposed to, like you said, if I posted that on forums, most of my friends would be like, "Oh, nice, you broke 100K," as opposed to "Get fucked, nerd, like you're shit."
Right. Right.
Couldn't do it on the old loser.
I'll tell you that when you take that, I'm gonna write that for you.
I appreciate you, Ollie. So like that's just it. But like, a lot of people don't view Rich or Finn as players as well.
Or as humans sometimes.
Or
it feels like.
yeah, I think that's a thing in the gaming industry in general. I don't think, or
Yeah,
even
that's in
some.
general.
Yeah, I was gonna say in general. Yeah, I always say that I'm, shocked at some of the stuff I've seen people get stuff posted to them. I'm like, the fuck is wrong with you? Like, good God, man. Like, but like, yeah, a lot of the things are just like, oh, well, they don't even play their own game. Well, they do. And it's weird sometimes because it's just like, a lot of players, especially when you have a player base this large, don't want the same things. And if the people on the dev team happen to not be focusing on the thing that you're focusing on, that probably doesn't sit that well. You had mentioned the light attack thing earlier, whereas like that gets pretty polarizing. Some people don't want light attacking and animation canceling to be part of the game. It should be removed. It should be taken out. It's a glitch. It's a bug. It's ruining everything. Okay. And then other people, well, it's what makes combat unique. It raises the skill ceiling to where you can practice and get good at it. You can do all these wild, ridiculous things because you've just got your timing so far down. Okay, you can't have animation canceling and not have animation canceling and weaving and not weaving at the same time. Like, because you either get rid of it and then it's not there, or you don't get rid of it and it's there. Like, you literally can't make those two groups happy at the same time. So that's one of those situations, like Rich's statement, where I just took it as like, oh, you can't please everybody. Some people are going to like what you do. Some people are not going to like what you do. And I always got the idea is, I think the goal should be, we'll try to make as many people happy as possible and try to not ruin it for anybody. Do what you can to make it, even if it's not for them. Well, okay, maybe this one isn't for them, but at least it's not overtly destroying their experience or something like that.
Yeah.
Which again, probably is a fucking nightmare to try to do in game development. Like, but that's one of the big things, because like the game is designed with light attack weaving, and that whole big thing where we had more Update 35 drama during the whole Oakensole thing with where they put in the word accessibility, which I think people took in weird directions. Which whatever. I like the idea of the Oakensole ring. I think it's very accessible. The floor is very, very high on it. The ceiling is actually not that much higher than the floor. You're not going to outparse somebody who knows what they're doing full stop with 2 bars. But it gets you into all of this other stuff with a way lower bar of entry, which I like a lot. I think that's great. And then they kept screwing it up and then fixing it in a different way, and then screwing it up and then fixing it in a different way. And like, again, that's not accessible. Changing it all the time. People want, okay, well, leave it alone. Find what works and leave it. And yes, it was pretty overpowered at the start, and then it got better, and then it got worse, and then it got better, and now where it's at, I really, not super my play style, but I think it's very accessible. So maybe just leave it the fuck alone. Stop screwing with it. That would be nice. But stuff like that, a lot of people got very at odds with each other about what they wanted from the game. And the thing was, it became less again about like, what's the answer here? And more, well, you want to lord over us, that you were better than us and stuff like that, and blah, 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 because you can light attack better. And I'm like, dude, no. Like the one that I thought was very weird was a lot of people were kind of like pissed at Skinny Cheeks for suggesting another way to do it. Like, well, that's not accessible. I can't do this and stuff like that. I was like, I'm in the same group as you. I can barely get, like, I can't do what Skinny Cheeks does. But I was like, that makes sense. Like, I get what he's saying. And I'm not in the demographic that's like, oh yeah, no, I parse 130K. No, I don't even see triple digits yet. Like, what do you, like, I'm in this demographic that he's trying to help. And and it helps to not just jump to being defensive first. Like, just let somebody talk. And it's fine if it doesn't sync up or whatever. Personally, the weirdest thing, which a lot of groups I run with, I personally think animation canceling is kind of stupid. Like, which is not a common thing when you're in trifecta groups or endgame. I think it's kind of dumb. Do I think it's game breaking? No. Do I think it's kind of dumb? Yeah. Do I care that it's there? No. Do I like it? Well, not specifically, but I learned it because it's part of the game. So I don't really know how my opinion falls in that situation, because it's like, it's doable, and you only need to be moderately good at it to get through pretty much all the content. You got to get really good at it when you're going for challenge-based content, which is, I feel like, a big problem that people don't differentiate. You can beat Dreadsail Reef with, on normal, basically completely clueless to everything. Like, just bumble your way through. On Vet, you've got to be able to do a respectable amount of damage and get some coordination with your team, and you will get through it. It won't be a breeze by any means. It seems like to do the hard mode, you got to really kind of be at it. It's going to take a lot of practice. It's very mechanics heavy. But the damage checks aren't outrageous from what I'm saying this from the perspective. I have not actually done the whole thing yet.
Yeah, to complete it, the damage checks aren't crazy, but
they're high.
But to get the trifecta, that is really like,
and
there's no room for.
Correct. And what I was going to say exactly to that point, and I'm glad you kind of, because you're more in that field of like, we're working on that type of trifecta, whereas I am not at that type of trifecta yet. I'm much more in the, Godslayer prog style thing at the moment. Even stuff like that. That isn't completing the content. You are now doing challenges of the content.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I don't mind when it's required that you get really, really precise at that level. Being able to complete all the content, it's not as tough as people try to lead you to believe. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't require practice, but bleeding edge DPS and all these, like, all your time, your buff and debuff times are like super precise. Does that all make it easier? Absolutely. But is it required? No. It only becomes more required the more challenge stuff you try to do. But challenge stuff is different from completing content to me. I feel like there's a distinction that a lot of people don't seem to acknowledge. It's like, well, I should be able to do the trifecta doing just this. And it's like, well, that's saying I want to be able to do this challenge stuff doing just this, as opposed to, well, you can beat the dungeon wearing like a hat and nothing else. Like,
even that challenge stuff, over time, it becomes...
You can... That's the thing, is you put in enough practice, and that's how you get people being like, let's do Immortal Redeemer with just Oaken Souls. The amount of people who just straight up have said in guilds, like, and I've been told this before, and like I say, I'm not even off the rails talented or anything like that. I just work toward things and steadily try to progress through them. But I had, again, one of these guilds that I was in, somebody was progging True Genius, and they asked for some tank setups for it. And I was like, oh, yeah, here's what I used or whatever. And somebody else chimed in and they were like, well, that's, I wouldn't use Saxiel in this because this is blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, yeah, okay, but this is, I suggest this. And they're like, well, yeah, but once you become better at tanking, you'll do this. I was like, okay, first of all, are you telling me how to do it? This is the video of me doing the thing you're asking me how to do. Why are you telling me how to do it? You just asked for an opinion. Like, I'm not saying you can't do it some other way. I'm simply saying this is what I did because, like, my PA uptime in dungeons tends to suck. So I work around it because I'm more concerned about doing other stuff. So it's like, well, what can I do to provide a buff that is useful if I'm not good at, say, chaining 9 things and keeping my PA on point? Like, okay, well, what if I use Sax? I pull all this shit in, chain it down. It doesn't matter if my teammates start getting hit because now we have barrier and I have Sax and I have this, so it extends, so we burn through the stuff. Same idea, but in a different way, type of thing. And if I get the trifecta and the goal is to get the trifecta, my way isn't wrong. Like,
no, exactly. Yeah.
It's just different, which is fine.
Yeah.
And that was a situation where I was kind of like, at first I thought it was like a joke. I'm like, oh, haha. And I'm like, wait, is this fucker serious? Like, are you literally telling me that I'm doing the thing wrong that you're asking for help? I was like, what is happening? Like, I don't. And then he was like, oh, well, I guess for specific groups it can work. I was like, that was literally what I was saying. It's like, here is our specific group comp, a specific group comp. I don't know, like, how that got lost in translation.
Nah, those kinds of people don't want help when they ask that shit. They want self-validation for their choices.
Yeah, I guess that's
like
I guess that's valid.
You know what I mean? Like, I've gotten
when I ask a question, I want to know. Like, if I ask one of you how to do something, it's because you've probably done it. So I'm asking how to do it. Like, I'm attempting to organize a trial team to start off easier in terms of any trifecta is easy, quote unquote. I'm trying lower quality, like lower difficulty, to try to see how we work as a team to build up like a core team. Again, scheduling is miserable, but we're working toward filling it out. I hate leading trials. I don't like leading anything, but sometimes if you want to get something done, you need to just kind of take the initiative. So I'm starting to try to do it. And I don't have all the knowledge that other people do. I don't play a healer. I'm a mediocre DPS, and I'm a half decent tank, I think. But I was like, okay, well, this is going to be awkward. So he's been on the show before, but 8 Puppies. I messaged him, and I was like, okay, we're setting up for a TikTok tormentor. Give me some group comp ideas. And he totally did. And I'm going to factor those in because I wanted to know some group comp ideas for a TikTok tormentor group. Not because I was going to be like, well, you're fucking dumb and that's a stupid setup. It's like, well, I could have just not asked.
Time to explain this.
Yeah, right,
This is why you're wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, I don't know. I guess I don't have that much time to just go around trying to pick fights.
You should see some of the questions we get in ESOU. People will ask us questions about like the most stupid details of a boss fight. And they literally say, like, I'm trying to settle an argument with my raid team.
Oh boy.
It's like, well, bro, I don't think this fucking detail matters. It's something stupid. Like,
yeah. It does. It gets weird. I've also had, I had a question originally, which I appreciated the input I did get. And then I posted it and somebody was like, that doesn't work. And I was like, what do you mean it doesn't work? Here's a video of it working. What are you talking about? So there's that Shocking Instinct achievement where nobody gets zapped from bar swap in Cloud Rest on the Reliquin, I think, whichever one of the one is that has the bar swap mechanic, right? And on console, that's really complicated, to be fair, because it generally always ticks once by the time. Like it's very rare that you pull it off and everybody does it. And my idea was, I was like, well, what if we're all werewolves? Because then we don't have a back bar. And
Exactly.
somebody was like, yeah, that won't work. You'll just get it anyways. And I'm like,
It's not true.
oh, okay. Well, that really? And other people were like, no, that you totally don't have a back bar. That in theory should totally work. And I'm like, well, we're going to try it and find out. And it totally works. And you don't have a back bar. And you just delete the mechanic because nobody has a back bar. You just can't be out of werewolf form. So we did it even super slow. There were 5 of us and some companions, so that it would be a really slow fight. And we were just doing it on a normal anyways. But we're like, we'll just really just heavy attack, nice slow heavy attacks, run around like jackasses for a while, make sure to do these portals, and we did, and it just never gave us the mechanic. And I was like, oh no, it totally works. And they were like, oh, that must have been a glitch. I was like, just say you're wrong. It's fine. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. Weirdly, I think OpenSoul behaves a bit differently. I think
it does. It does shock you because it registers your second bar still there.
Yeah.
You just can't switch to it and you cook everybody.
Have you tried I think
if you take the weapon off on your back bar.
If you unequip it.
Yeah.
If you unequip your back bar weapon, it might be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I wonder if that would work because I do know that it does work. Oh, that's kind of cool.
I've heard confirmed reports of.
Okay, cool. So that's another way because I was gonna say I remember one of the ideas when we were fucking around with it. I was like, oh, what if I just don't equip a back bar, and it totally I had to go to my fists. And because it was like, oh no, you're getting electrocuted, and if you switch bars, it's just like, well, now I can punch the boss, but you still got that. Oh, so that's actually that's a pretty cool alternate way of doing that. I'm glad I didn't know that
with OpenSoul, but without a back. You have to remember to unslot your back bar weapon.
Oh wait, no, hold on. Let me be the exact people I'm talking about. That clearly doesn't work. It must have been.
Oh yeah.
No, there we go.
No, I'm wrong.
Yes, now I'm a
video
Reddit commenter or whatever.
Well, yeah. Oh yeah, going back to the tweets. Yeah, I think that's what happened.
yeah.
I think
how the fuck did we get here?
I think there was a series of just really badly timed tweets.
Yeah, there were a couple of them. So
I think you're right. He went from sort of like a relatable figure to I don't know what to call that.
Just another dev.
Yeah. I don't, and I think since that last one, he hasn't really done anything on Twitter since like November.
No, and it's, to be fair,
which
unfortunately,
I think is a safe move.
Yeah,
right now, you know what I mean?
Yes, and I mean there was that whole fiasco with the he had a really successful Twitch, and it provided a lot of information to people.
Fiasco.
And then there was the whole thing where with the PvP thing and his wife, where he now does not stream anymore.
Oh, well, okay. Do you know the full story of that?
Yes.
Really, you do?
Well, at least I think I do. I guess maybe I don't.
We're about to be enlightened.
I was going to say maybe there's more to this than even I realize.
Maybe I'm wrong. You know? Okay, who wants to go first? Should I go first?
Yeah, go first.
Okay.
Maybe there's more to this than I realized.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
So they were doing, I think, a fundraiser, pretty sure, during the stream, and the chatter who asked a question about are you gonna fix PvP or whatever, is someone that they were joking with, right?
Yep.
But what was even more damning is that the other clip of where like his wife was talking about how she wished this one teacher would have an autistic child, but that was within the context of I'm pretty sure they have an autistic child,
okay, yep,
like them, and their autism was not treated very well by this teacher. So she was saying within the context of, well, you should like experience. You know what I mean? Like
You don't understand this because you haven't dealt with it.
Exactly. Yeah. But then both of those clips were taken out of context and then spread around YouTube and all that
Interesting.
Shit. That's the full story I know from what I followed.
So
I don't know your full story. What's your full story?
So like, okay, I've heard something about that's more detailed than I knew about that.
Okay.
The thing that I was referring to was that thing where the person obviously says like, oh, fix PvP or whatever, and she made the like cry thing or whatever, and that got spread all over the place. Yeah, and it's really funny because like, again, people probably be like, you're an idiot, but whatever. As somebody who really enjoys PvP, that is literally what most of you sound like. As somebody in your group, that's all I hear. Like, And it's like, is it everybody? Abso-fucking-lutely not. But a lot of people, it's just like, dude, if this game makes you so miserable, maybe don't play it anymore. I mean, it sucks that you can't because it really just went in a direction that you don't like. But it's like the amount of people who just like, I don't think you actually have any fun with this.
Yeah,
Why
they're
are you
complaining that they're hitting themselves in the face, but they haven't thought to stop themselves in the face.
right? And it's like, I really didn't update 35. Guess who's played less ESO since then?
Yeah.
Right here. Like, I still make stuff. I still jump in because I don't hate it, but it just wasn't feeling as good. So like, I get the frustration level from their side of it. That probably like, okay, maybe not the most mature thing for her to do back. So, you know, that's not a good look. Only thing that's weird about this, she doesn't work at ZOS. She sees how much stress her husband probably deals with. She's probably going to jump on being more defensive or annoyed. Like, I get it. Again, does that make it okay? I don't know. Like, you say some weird stuff on stream and stuff like that, but it's just like, and you could tell he knew in the background when she did that. He knew, like, oh dear God, what just happened?
Yo, I wish you could. Dude, we need to set up like a I don't know, like a scene where we can play videos and shit. You know, on other podcasts they play videos.
Yeah.
We need to set that up because
So it's like, I get like that level of
God.
like them being frustrated.
Yeah.
Back. So like, again, it's one of those situations. Well, where do you fall on that line? It's probably somewhere in the middle, as opposed to they're the worst or all the players are the worst. Well, no, but both sides are blatantly frustrated. And if they can't fix it, well, that's frustrating too, because obviously they would make more, in the most cynical way possible, they would make more money if they would just fix it. I think they probably would just fix it if they could just fix it. Like, so it's like a weird situation. And actually, can you give me 1 second? I think my puppy has to pee.
Okay, yeah, go on. But yeah, what were we talking about, Ollie?
What do we want to talk about? We're talking about Twitters.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Man. First podcast episode of the year, 2023.
I know, and it's nearly the end of January. Have we got more guests lined up?
Do we have more guests lined up? I don't know.
I know we were trying to get Skinny before the end of the year, but then we had like loads of stuff to deal with. I think he's back into a routine now, Skinny.
Last time I checked in with him, he had like family stuff too.
Oh,
But yeah. I think we have a list still. I have a list. Yeah, I have a list. I'll ask around more. But yeah, I don't know. Wednesday is gonna be interesting. 25th, and then I think the 27th will be the combat preview, if there's a combat preview. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, are you worried about the combat preview or like the combat balance? Combat changes?
I feel like maybe if you'd asked me 2 years ago, yes, but I feel like we put up with so much like disappointing combat previews that I think I'm beyond caring. Well, not beyond caring. It's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm more resilient, or maybe I expect it to be disappointing. I don't know. Anything that can make trials more accessible and more fun for everyone, I'm on board with. If it means I have to change how I play completely, I don't really care. But as long as it suits more people than it harms.
I'm kind of curious what quarter 4 is going to be. They have a new system, they said, according to the studio director letter.
Yeah, but that sounds vague enough that we couldn't really make a guess.
No. What would it be though if it was new? Well, what exactly did they say? Yeah, I found it. So it loads. Okay, cool. Q4, rather than the usual Zone DLC, will be featuring a new system. We're working on the concept and design for this now. We'll give more details during a global reveal event on Wednesday, basically, yeah. So they have a one of the most requested new features in Q2, and Q4 there's a new system entirely. While Q3 focuses on quality of life improvements and bug fixes. Q1 is just a dungeon DLC. So we're getting 2 systems a year.
Well, like a new system might be like, I don't know, like event tickets is like a system, but it's not like mind-blowing or anything.
Like endeavors or something like that?
Yeah, just something that's like, I don't know, it doesn't really affect the rest of the game. Just kind of a little addition to stuff we're already doing. Like, oh my god. Dog. Woof.
All right, sorry about that.
That's okay.
You're good. We're just talking about the studio director letter.
Oh, okay.
Where there is a new feature coming with Q2, but there's also a new system coming with Q4. I'm just not sure what they mean by system. That they're still working on the design and concept for this as of December.
Yeah. So that's actually I don't know.
A lot of people got mad, by the way, about Q4 being replaced. The zone being replaced. Which I don't understand.
I don't really filled out the whole map yet, right? So
right, but I mean, if we get more for the first part of the year, isn't that because like the last couple of seasons, I don't know, years, story things, the break seems more artificial. Like just to have something to release at 2 different points. Like they seem like they could have just clicked them together anyways, but they just didn't. So if we get theoretically both parts of that at the start, that seems fine to me personally. Like we also theoretically are only getting 2 dungeons instead of 4.
I'm fine with that. Absolutely fine with that.
I am too. There's so many dungeons as well. Like it's not like there's a shortage of stuff to do. But like I think they'll obviously be fine. The game makes a freakish amount of money or whatever, but like it is a little weird that I brought up the fact that theoretically only the first half of the year is theoretically monetized in terms of like content to buy now. Unless they charge us for a quality of life update or they charge us for a new system, that would be fucking weird. But like, I don't know, that's weird to me. Like I don't really know.
New places to go. We're only getting that once a year.
Right.
Is that comparable to other MMOs? Like I feel like World of Warcraft, they only get a new place to go every like 2 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure they only get something every couple of years. I have zero context for MMOs outside of ESO, pretty much.
ESO is insane compared to some of the other MMOs. Like the content schedule is fucking insane. If you go from 2017 to 2022, it's insane. No other MMO really does this much in such a strict cadence. And the amount of, I mean, to give context, for example, they cut down the size of the game from 80 some gigabytes to 60 some gigabytes in TerraStorm DLC 2020. Now it's like almost 90 gigabytes or over 90 gigabytes now, right? Yeah. That's crazy. In the less than 2 years, they added back like 40 fucking gigabytes. I think there's 2 reasons as to why they've decided to do this new system thing for Q4. I think one, like you said, the first half is heavily monetized and the second half is like meh. I think they've long ago realized that most of their revenue comes from the Crown Store, and they're like, well, and that's indicated by the fact that they've given away the Q4 Zone DLC,
right?
Like 3 times now, which is
They did it with Murkmire, they did it with Blackwood, they did it with High Isle. So
Okay,
3
3
times
times. Yeah,
they've done
yeah.
it. Which one of them was a login reward, 2 of them were the community thing, which is always funny because a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, this is dumb if I get it for free with ESO Plus anyways." Whereas I'm like on the
Right.
podcast being like, "Do the stupid thing so I don't have to pay for it because I don't have ESO Plus." But I did like the fact that they added something this last year. Granted, it was like a pet or something, I think, but it was nice that they acknowledge you get something else with ESO Plus as well. It's better.
Yes,
It's better
yeah.
than not doing that. I still say when they have ESO Plus events, why don't people who have ESO Plus get crown crates anymore for each day? That's weird to me.
Yeah. But
I
yeah.
don't get it. I'm happy enough getting ESO Plus. It sucks if you already have ESO Plus. That's weird. Like,
Yeah. But I think that's the first reason, monetization. The second reason I think they decided to do away with another zone thing is because I think they also realized that the more shit they add, the more unstable the game's gonna be. I mean, if you look at games like Destiny 2 or even like I think there's Korean MMO I used to play. Not Maple Story, it was something else. Fuck me, I don't remember. But like
Aeon or one of those things.
yeah, eventually they had to like do away with certain areas of the game,
okay.
or like just
Well,
remove
Destiny
them.
did that
Yeah. Like what's
because
it
that
called?
was something. I mean, I don't know. It's debatable whether people think Destiny's an MMO or not, but I've played Destiny 2, and one of the biggest problems I have with that game is like I recently jumped back into it, and I was like, cool, I'm going to play this Forsaken thing that I missed. And they're like, no, you're not. That's not in the game anymore. I was like, what? Fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
this is stupid. I just bought it. What do you mean I can't play it?
Well,
Like,
I'm comparing it to that because it's like a game anyway, right?
right.
And the amount of shit in the game necessitates the fact that you have to remove some things. I think they've realized, unless they want to make the game like 200 gigabytes, they probably have to stop a little bit. And and there's probably
it's going to get ridiculous.
there's probably concern too on the combat or at least quality of life end with the crafting stations that people have to make. And what was that? If you don't have a zone, that's like 3 new sets that are missing. That's how many? That's 12 less attunables per year automatically. So I think there's a lot of reasons why they removed the zone DLC. I think it's a healthy thing, honestly.
I think it could be too. The other thing is, which hopefully it ends up being the case with the quality of life thing and with the the new system as opposed to like a zone later in the year, is it would be nice if well, more than it would be nice, I can't imagine a single person would complain if things came out and it was not accompanied by one of 2 statements. Everything is fucking broken, or oh my god, it works. Which it's like those should not be the 2 things that we say when we get a DLC. It should just be I enjoy this or whatever. But it's literally shock that it didn't break or anger that it broke. Like it's always based around the performance, like in all aspects.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice if maybe them slowing things down, the fact that it hopefully ends up just working becomes the normal so that it's an outlier if something goes wrong. And there's only sometimes you can't do anything. Like when that port broke during a patch, it's like, okay, I mean, Jesus, like how are you not supposed to assume that it was the patch that broke it? And we had a hardware failure the exact same time that we launched a patch. Like that's super weird, but like Markarth was light attacks. Firesong was the inability to block. Like these things happen more than they should. Harrowstorm was whatever. I forget at the time.
Crashes with ice staffs.
Yeah, it's just like those type of things are just so commonplace. It's a shame that that's become like a lot of the talk when something releases, almost as much, if not more so, than the stuff that released itself. Which kind of sucks because especially when the stuff is good and people are like, yeah, but it doesn't work. It's like, well, can't fault you there. You're not wrong. Like, so I don't know. It'd be nice if that could kind of not be at the forefront of everything. Performance. Maybe if they go a little slower, it'll just start being launched polished, because so far it seems like it's just not the case. And maybe it's because of that wild cadence that they're on where it's just like stuff all the time. So
yeah, I wonder how much the like the tech industry redundancies are going to factor into
Oh
planning.
yeah, you guys
Yeah,
saw that shit? The layoffs?
Yeah.
That's the
That's-
amount of it's insane.
dude. That's
Over 10,000.
talk about like the most awkward time. Talk about bad timing. They release the letter that gets everybody all excited for what we're getting, followed the following day by, oh, by the way, a bunch of people that you consider like acquaintances now don't work at the company. I'm like, wow, okay, that kind of killed some of my hype because now I just feel bad. Like, what the fuck? Like, now granted, that wasn't anything that they specifically would do. Like, you know what I mean? But like, from the higher up and beyond just Microsoft, Bethesda, and stuff like that, like you said, Facebook or Meta or whatever stupid name they have now, and all those things. It's like there've been so many tech layoffs, and just because this is a tech thing, so many people that I actually know or my friends know literally lost their jobs because of this, and I'm like, ouch, that sucks. Like that's not good. That is not a healthy way of doing something. Like that's an industry with a concern when you lose that many people.
Yeah. No, I mean, I wonder how that's going to affect the speed of their development going forward.
Yeah.
I heard it was like what was it, 80 or 3? I don't know. Was it 80 or 300? I don't know. I'm thinking 300. Was it 80? 100?
I don't.
It was a small number compared to
Are you talking? You're talking about like the Bethesda branch.
ZeniMax.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, there's a lot of studios under ZeniMax. So.
Correct. ZeniMax is the conglomerate.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So like
right, because some people from Arcane or id or Bethesda Studios, stuff like that. So yeah, there's like a lot. I think I had the pleasure of knowing like 5 or 6 people who unfortunately lost their jobs, and it's just, I hope they find something quick so that it's not like a huge impact to them, because it's like I don't know enough people that I should know that many people in the field that this was affected by. Like, just like, woof. Yeah, I was gonna say that it was actually Draken brought up in chat. The one that really threw me off was people on Starfield, the game that's not out yet, that was delayed, and they're even having layoffs. It's like,
crazy.
What is going on over there? That is concerning.
I know Fallout 76 had layoffs.
That wouldn't surprise me. They've kind of had their whole development actually very ironically, it follows the way ESO's history went really well. Released too early, was super buggy. Everybody said dead game. Turns out they kept working on it, made it into a better game. People now like it, but it's a smaller portion, and most people think it's crap. And it just consistently chugs along and tries to improve stuff and add stuff. I like Fallout 76. I thought it was fine at launch, but launched too early. It should have just launched with the first like expansion, Wastelanders, just like ESO should have launched like pretty much when they launched Craglorn. Should have been like when the game came out. Type of thing. And I'm like, yeah, it's like the same type of cycle, which just seems to be like a game cycle in general. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they lost people too. Just because so many people just across the industry, it's not good. That was really shitty news to see so many people now have to deal with all that.
I'm not sure if anyone in ZOS got laid off though. So I think ESO is okay.
A couple from
Unless
LinkedIn.
you guys know somebody.
Yeah, there were a couple on LinkedIn, but nobody like that's constantly in the spotlight, I guess would be the best way of putting it. At least that I know.
Yeah, like studio people. A couple of people that organized the streaming stuff at QuakeCon. Nefas, a couple of them.
Yeah, that type of thing.
Like studio managers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna ask something. I forgot after this depressing news.
I know that's the problem.
That
got. We talked about a bunch of sketchy shit, and that was just like, oh wait, that's like not even like fictional bad stuff. This is just awful.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Daedric sex will never. Oh, like
yeah. Right, man.
Oh wait, yeah. I was gonna ask, like, what's your personal opinion on the quality of the lore for ESO? Because we were talking about the Reddit post that was going on and on about how 2020 was really bad and 2021 was like meh as well. What do you think?
So I like what ESO fills out a lot of times. I feel like it adds good stuff, but sometimes I feel like for whatever reason they don't go far enough filling some of the stuff out. One of the big things, I think you joined Tales for our episode, like right around the time of, it was like right before the reveal, because it was like we were still split. Is it going to be Red Guards? Is it going to be Bretons type of thing? Or it might have been right after that. And like one of the, well, there was one really funny thing that we got like some comments on, like your response to Nefas being like, what's so interesting about Bretons? And I'm like, they have magical resistances to
They're
a
French
bunch of
people.
shit. Yeah. And I'm like, the problem is they've got their origin story, which is like, okay, great. They were super oppressed and enslaved and stuff like that. Okay, that's pretty much it. And then they have like the magical tie-in because they're half mer, half human. Oh, okay. And then we get the Year of the Bretons, and it's like, oh, they're going to fill it all out. And it's kind of just the Year of the Druids, who are Bretons.
Mhm.
Like, it actually wasn't really the year of the. It wasn't the legacy of the Bretons. There wasn't really any talk about the Bretons at all, except Druids were Bretons. Here's a bunch of Druid lore. Okay, cool. I appreciate the Druid lore that you added to the series now. But
it just wasn't what you expected.
It didn't really do what they said, I guess. And they kind of do that a decent bit sometimes. There are some. This is super. Let me get neck beardy for 1 second.
Okay, go for it.
Because this is like one thing. It rarely do I have too much of just a raw complaint about the writing, because even if it's not my taste, a lot of times I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Or I wish they added more. That's something I'm just always like, oh yeah, you can always add more. It happened with Elsewhere, and theoretically it could have happened with Greymore, depending upon your choice. But the fact that the companions came back with Lyris and Sai Sahan, that was one of the only times where I said this writing is not good. Because it straight up undermines your original choice.
Yeah.
Which, whatever. Does it ruin the game for me? No, whatever. Like, it's fine. But when Sai Sahan came, so my ending story.
I killed Sai Sahan.
Yes, I killed Sai Sahan.
Yeah, let's go.
And a lot of people were like, why'd you kill Sai Sahan? And I'm like, so I'm making this amulet for power.
Right.
I want the most badass of these people. I don't want the withered old man who can't see. That's not going to give me any power that's worth anything.
Wait,
I don't
what?
want that.
Don't the kid.
Abner Tharn is unkillable. And all I just get was like a bunch to my snark skill. So it's like, okay, whatever. It's between Lyris and it's between Sai. And Lyris seemed pretty beastly, but I was like, dude, everybody is terrified of Sai Sahan. Plus that beard is sweet. So like, I was like, all right.
No, that was reasoning.
So yeah. Also,
my reasoning.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, I guess if you haven't played the base game 9 years ago, this is sort of a spoiler as to what I chose my ending to be. Yeah, I was gonna say like it. You can also not choose any of these storylines. But for me, I killed Sai Sahan so that I felt he was the most badass.
That's not why I chose him.
All right, so why'd you choose?
Here's my little reasoning. All right.
Okay.
So, all right. The choices between the Prophet and Lyris and Sai Sahan, and Sai Sahan wants to fucking die. He's broken.
Yeah, he also volunteers.
He's mentally and almost physically broken after
he's prepped
torture.
For it.
Yeah, I'm just like, why not just get this guy?
He's asking you to utilize him as well. Yeah, no, that's totally a thing. Yep.
And the Prophet, a lot of people went with the Prophet, and according to the first Lord Master, Lauren Schick, right?
That was.
He said that was supposedly the canonical choice.
Yeah, because
but I'm like,
they were made to have a decision, which they weren't really keen on. It was supposed to be just predetermined, and they're
Right.
like told by
So
higher ups
you-
or whatever. That's like, well, you have to give them an option. And I'm like, fine, okay, you can kill these other two, I guess. Like,
So you're gonna let this guy who started all this cataclysm get away like that? Just paint like, you know what I mean? Just without atoning, without doing the work you need to do to solve the problem in Cyrodiil? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
what?
Yeah.
You just gonna let him
Right.
go? Or I don't
So-
know.
But then, like, these characters came back, and it didn't.
Yeah. Well, the prophet came back in Orsinium.
The prophet came back in that weird vision in Rothgar.
Yeah, I was so confused by that one.
So it was more of a projection. I could see him kind of still being dead in that projection. Like, oh, okay, is this just like a ghost thing or whatever? Saizahan's just straight up, hey, I'm Saizahan, I'm back now, and I'm leading the Dragon Guard.
Yeah,
I'm like,
well, the screen
whoa,
went
what?
black, and here I
And then-
am.
yeah, and then when you talk to the whole thing where you're, behind the sands behind the stars, and I'm like, okay, how the fuck are you back? And he's like, I don't know, it just kind of like, I went into darkness, and then I was pulled out, and I guess Akatosh had more of a purpose to me. And I'm like, dude, that's not good writing. It's like, that's lame. I don't know why Lyris would come back if you killed her. I don't know what the reasoning is for that. But that was
Yeah.
one of the only ones where I was like, I don't know. That didn't feel great. But other than that, that's the only glaring one that I had a problem with. A lot of times they kind of work a little more with like loose ends in lore, and I'm fine with that. Like, I don't really care. The big thing with Elsewhere as well, people were all up in arms about the dragons coming back, and they're like, dragons are dead, blah blah blah. Well, they're not. They were in hiding. It was actually all over the place in the game saying that they were in hiding after like they were being hunted to extinction. Like, they're in Elder Scrolls 1 Arena, you go to the halls of the Colossus and you actually collect a tablet as well. Like, there's all these things where it's like, this isn't actually all that weird. It's just they never did anything with it. So stuff like that is fine. And I like when they flesh out more of it. And they're really, honestly, the Saizahan thing is really the only thing that I was just like, I did not like that. I thought that was... Why did they specifically need him other than nostalgia? Like, to just make a new character. Whatever.
They really love to play on people's nostalgia. Like, they really love it.
Yeah.
Even with the chapters, Morrowind, Skyrim.
Oh yeah, sure. Because I was gonna say you get the name recognition
And
and
then
all
it's
that
like,
stuff for sure. Actually, so I guess this one actually, whatever.
Yeah.
If this isn't spoiled enough for you, there's another. This one's less ridiculous to me, but potential spoilers for the Aldmeri Dominion storyline. Whatever. It's pretty strongly implied that Razum Dar dies too. He gets
I
trapped in.
I tried to kill him.
Yeah, you can trap him in a cave-in. And it's one of those things, you don't see him die, you don't know he died. So like it's nebulous enough that I was like, okay, like we're just going to bring everybody back. Death is unfortunately when you use the I'm back from the dead trope too many times, death loses its meaning to the series.
Yeah.
It's happened many times. I really don't like when they do that. But as for full lore like additions to the series, mostly good. Like mostly I think it helps. They fill stuff out. And honestly, we've gotten like more lore and storyline stuff from ESO than probably like all of the other games combined at this point, just from the sheer volume of it. Whether you like it or not is whatever, but like there's a lot of it from ESO.
Shit. Oh god, I keep losing my train of thought. What was it before Saison? We're talking about
It's about the lore.
the lore.
Like, what's the lore?
Oh yeah,
Is
like
the lore in ESO good or not?
yeah, and mostly yes.
Oh, the Bretons. Yeah, the French people.
Oh,
Okay, hold on. Okay, here's my problem with the fucking French people in ESO. Okay, like all I know about the whole why is like that? All I know about them is like they're supposedly half man, half elf, whatever. They're capable with magic, blah blah blah, and they're French people. And we got a chapter about them instead of the Red Guards or Hammerfell, right? And I'm like, okay, you know, I don't know too much about them besides that they're French people. And the problem with me, like you said, was they didn't.
Are they like all French actors? Is that where this is coming from?
No, they're all French people.
They got French names.
Anyway,
Okay, all right.
from the province of Brittany, Breton. That's where the word Breton comes from.
Yeah,
they're
from
fucking
High
French
Rock
people.
and all that. Yeah,
Some of them have my last name.
Really?
Really?
That's
Holy
hilarious. That's awesome.
Valois?
Yeah, that's my name. Yeah.
Okay, but my problem is
That's
not.
me, all right.
Okay, my problem is not that they're French people. My problem was like, how do you make this exciting? How do you make them exciting? You know what I mean? And I wanted to be proven wrong because remember
Apparently
Merkmeyer?
you talk about druids and not Bretons. That's what they did.
Well, remember Merkmeyer, right? I did not like Shadowfen. I don't like the aesthetic of Argonians, and I think they're just lizards. Like that. What are they? They're just lizards that live in mud huts. What's so interesting about these motherfuckers? Right?
Okay.
And then I play through Merkmeyer, and it's like, wow, there's so much more. There's so much more to them.
Hyper underrated.
Yeah, I think it was surprisingly, shockingly. There's so much more to their culture. There's so much more to them as a people, and it's like, whoa, you know. And I was kind of hoping for High Isle. Yeah, for Bretons, maybe they're not just French people. Then I go into High Isle, they're French people.
Yeah.
Like, piece of shit. Like,
and that's the thing. It's like kind of to your point. That was, I guess, something that we kind of had an issue with as well, where it was just like talking a lot about druids. Anything on the no druids? Very good. Druids. Okay, and nature magic. And a tie into the weird and more okay, all right, we're done here. It's like, okay, well, they play
cards though.
That's
cards.
true.
Oh my god. I mean, the cards are fine, but like the French people, I don't get it, man. How is that like hype? I don't understand people. Why are people so excited about Bretons? Just because their character's Breton? Basically.
Maybe. I was interested to see. They're also weirder if you look back in the series. Look back farther in the series.
Yeah.
They've become very rounded, very human type of thing. They had like really like weirdly long fingers, and like they had really prominent like elf ears, and they had like elongated features, and they've definitely like normalized them as the series has gone on, where it's just like okay, you're kind of just like alt humans, as opposed to like this weird, freaky hybrid thing, which is,
But yeah, turns out they were just French people all along.
Turns out.
So I don't really give a shit about Bretons anymore.
Yeah. So High Isle did not see, and it's also funny because I really liked the story of High Isle, but I also joked the fact that I didn't care about any of the characters in High Isle. I just liked the situation. Like, okay, I like the villain thing or whatever, but it was like, it's weird to say that as much as I liked High Isle because I thought it was like a cool setting and like I liked the like situation that arose, I didn't give a crap about the characters. And I know that's supposed to be like a big focus for like a lot of it. It's like, oh, you get invested with the character.
The Isabel one, that was fun. Like that was a nice like story, like her trying to.
I guess the companions are fine. I think Ember's like pretty cool too. Like I like the companions. Yeah. But the thing that I did find funny was like when you can guess who the Ascendant Magus is. I guessed wrong. And the guy reveals himself, and I was like, I still don't know who you are. This is supposed to be a big reveal.
I was playing that quest on stream. Some people got mad at me. They're like, well, how could you not know? I'm just like, I don't fucking know.
It was funny because I was just like, are you that guy I met like that one time? And the person I guessed also was a bad guy. So I'm like, whatever. I was close. Who the hell cares? You betrayed me too. Whatever. And then because of how the thing went out, I'm not going to specifically spoil this or whatever, but like because of how it played out, I was like, dude, is the Ascendant Lord this person just because of convenience of where you? And yes, that was the answer. Yes, it was yes, it totally was. And I was like, okay, I like the story more than any of the people involved with the story. So,
do you think they need more twists or something? Because it feels like most of the quests or like the main stories are like
predictable.
Too predictable.
Maybe the problem is
reading a children's book sometimes.
Right. I mean, you leave people to speculate too long, and you'll over speculate, and you'll come up with every scenario ever, and eventually it's kind of hard to like surprise people. But the problem that because stuff is happening so quickly with this series, I also feel like they might not have enough time to develop good misdirection. So like the longest thing of misdirection, which if you play a lot of Elder Scrolls games and stuff like that, you'll know that Meridia, who is essentially a good Daedra that helps you in the base game defeat Molag Bal, is not good. She's super fucked up and she does horrible things all the time. But all you kind of get is, well, she helped you defeat Molag Bal, so that's good. She must be on your side. Like that's very helpful, but it's only because your goals aligned type of deal.
Right.
And since that has ended, we've had the Depth of Malatar, where her cult is being dealt with, implying, okay, well, now you're not on the same side as her. She super fucks with Darian, which that's not
And he dies.
super. Yeah, so that's not very benevolent.
Yeah.
Especially if you read that book after you complete Somerset. Strongly suggest reading that book up in the tower afterwards, because it's really kind of screwed up and gives a good background to Darian Gautier or whatever. And then in Greymoor, she's got her temple, which gets wiped out by Harrowstorm. And they're like, what the hell? We were totally praying to Meridia and she just never showed up. And now we're all dead and mangled and everything like that. I'm like, yeah, that's because Meridia's not like a good guy. Like, that's not how this works. And I keep waiting for them to actually have that shift. Now, it's sort of been telegraphed, but it's like, it would be interesting to finally have her be an enemy instead of you view her as an ally. The biggest thing, which I always thought, it's a quote from base game, when you do a Dark Anchor and Molag Bal makes some statement of like, you know, there are crueler masters to serve than I type of thing. I always just took that as like, yeah, you're talking about Meridia because you're working with her. And it's like, dude, you're a chump and she's going to take advantage of you later. And they've just never done anything with that whole storyline that basically just seems like it's been hovering there for 8 years now in the background. And it's like, if they use that, I feel like that would be enough that it's like, do stuff like that. Have a really long play where you get invested with a character and then do a misdirection, as opposed to, hey, you met this character. I mean, in some cases, literally once. And then it's like, well, that betrayal didn't really matter because I can't remember your name. Because like we haven't, right? Or this character is so ham-fisted. Like, no, I'm your friend. It's like, anybody who keeps telling me you're my friend that much, you're probably going to try to stab me in the back, dude. Like, that's not how this works. So I don't know. I hopefully this longer season or storyline thing is going to help them, because I think they might be able to establish better characters that you could align with or really dislike and have a better payoff than trying to squish it all into 1 year.
I think the multi-year story arc will be good. Like, more healthier. And I think more fun. Like, what if this year we lose? We never lose.
Yeah, I know.
What if we just lose? Fuck it, everyone dies. Or like 10,000 people die or something because you fucked up. And that's it. You don't know until next year.
A lot of shit needs to get corrected before the mainline series starts, because I was going to say, like, when Talos shows up, there aren't 5,000 different emperors fighting over the throne still. Right. I mean, there was turmoil and all this stuff, but it's like a lot of stuff needs to kind of go in different directions before they catch up to the main series. So theoretically, yeah, we could do some stuff where we don't always win, or at least we lose some battles, because you never really lose a battle for very long.
Yeah, I mean, we just need to straight up lose for an entire year and just wait until next year.
Just get wailed on to come back. Yeah,
exactly. I don't know, but it feels like it's a theme here. Like, they don't want a conception of losers versus winners, even in their storylines. You know, everyone on the leaderboards gets the same shit, regardless of the number 1 or number 50, right? But now it's storylines. It's like, oh, you never lose.
Right.
So boring. Right. I don't know. Yeah. For sure. But yeah, I think it'll be healthier in general.
I do too. Yeah. I think it allows them to craft a story with a bigger payoff doing it this way. And I know they like people to just be able to jump in whenever they want, but it is objectively a better story if you play it in order.
Alright, do you guys want to talk about anything else? Anything. Golly, anything. Doesn't even have to be Elder Scrolls.
Is it snowing where you are? Because it's
No,
cold.
not
here, but
yet.
It's not snowed yet.
It's stopped here, but we got about 6 inches of snow.
I think it should.
Yeah, we got about 6 inches. Like my corgi basically goes up to her chin, so she has to kind of like swim like a dolphin in the yard to get around.
Oh my god.
I'm like 3 states below this guy. I think it should. Like no snow. It's so weird. I feel like every year just gets less snowy.
Well, dude, it's been like super, super warm here, and then all of a sudden, like the last 2-3 weeks, it's like, oh, by the way, winter, get fucked, and it's just like, all right then, very good. I guess we don't get to fully escape.
Global warming question mark?
Well,
Don't make it political.
Well, I'm pretty sure climate change is funny. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about Maddie's here, and he's bringing up bards. Why? You saw that ESO account post that bingo board?
Oh yes, I
Anyone?
did.
Mm,
Yeah, I saw that.
You want to see that? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty funny. Someone's gonna mention bards, but yeah, we'll take any questions if anyone has any. I think I saw a bunch of questions earlier.
Everybody asking. Hold on, I can grab my puppy.
Yeah, and we just wrap it up after the Q&A and we're done.
Mm.
I feel like I've kept you guys longer than usual, but we had so much to
That's
talk
all
about.
yeah. I'm just going to ask corgi things. Oof. Hello, dog.
What dog?
There's a
No, it's
little
a dog.
corgi.
Think? Oh, that's a stuffed
That's
animal.
no. She's real.
Ce-Nex is releasing a 5th DLC for this chapter with a new zone. It's called the Eiffel Tower. What?
What's
Got to make up for those the Bretons.
No, the Brens. What is this? At the end of the main quest line, Molag Bal reveals everything was part of his scheme and that your actions are benefiting him, but they've never followed up with it.
Yeah, that's definitely another kind of alignment thing. I always sort of wonder how much of that's just like bluster, and he's just like, yeah, no, you're totally helping me. It's like, I just wrecked your ass. But at the same time, you can't really kill Daedric princes, so it's like, since he's the god of schemes, like, do you think you're doing one thing one way and it ends up backfiring another way type of thing? Because a lot of times that's the situation with these things. You think you're doing one thing and you end up botching something else that you didn't see in advance. But like, yeah, I don't know. That's totally true. They just never really address that anymore. Molag Bal has been done since base game. Like we have, well, actually, there's that really messed up dolmen in the unfinished dolmen in Hrothgar, which is, I guess, the closest thing to a reference to Molag Bal again. Is he just laughs like an asshole and drops a Daedric Titan.
Oh, I thought they couldn't build that Daedric anchor site lore-wise.
Yeah, no,
So
it's
orcs
just
would, like-
it's like yeah, it's like a boss. It's just like a boss fight, but like you can hear him from what I remember, kind of like doing his like evil cackle. But that's like the only other reference to Molag Bal past base game that I can think of. But yeah, it stays unfinished because of the Orsimer or whatever.
I have placed bets on the Zone Plus feature. If it's not, if it, yeah, have you seen that only? If it's not, if it's not Divided Peninsula, I'll shave my head.
All right.
If it's not spellcrafting, I'll get a piercing. Where? I don't know yet.
Where? I don't know yet. It's also a surprise.
I think we need a new class, and the bard would be just fun and different. Give me spear. I
wouldn't mind being able to actually like the emotes. I wouldn't mind if like they could sync up with people. So like if someone plays a lute and someone plays a drum, if they could like sync up together.
I don't see a new.
Fun.
We talked about this earlier too. We don't see a new class or anything like that coming until they drop the old gen consoles, which I feel like they should do next year. Honestly, at this point. You know?
Also, there's one. What's the fave abilities, dude? Nothing is better than jabs. People either hate jabs or think it's the greatest thing ever, and I would be happy if I could literally just press jabs.
What's
for
your opinion
everything.
on the new jabs? It seems pretty divisive.
Worse than old jabs.
You think so?
I think it looks cooler, and I guess I got so used to old jabs timing, even though this one technically syncs better. I don't think I've ever fully unlearned it, and I guess the only part of it that's weird, I don't like the up jab part to the very end of it. That's just enough to like make it look weird. I wish he would just jab straight or something. It's kind of hard to explain, but the spear itself looks way cooler. I just don't. The timing of it just is a little. I don't like it as much.
I like the feeling of it much more than the old jabs.
Okay.
Because like it's a 0.8 second channel instead of a 1 point some channel.
1.2 or whatever it was, or 1.4. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like it makes more sense. It's just maybe I trained myself weirdly.
Yeah, I get that though. Like it's just jarring to switch the feeling of it.
The rapid strikes is weird though. I don't think I like.
I think rapid strikes is great, personally.
I mean, it makes more sense if you're wearing like axes and maces.
Oh, as opposed to that fever-inducing, like like that was
you're a kid
ridiculous.
being held back with a hand on your head. You know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, no, the new one makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I like the new one more.
Yeah,
I don't know about the animation or audio for the new jabs though. I think the audio they're still using the old audio, so you can hear that fourth jab hit, even though there is no fourth jab. Which is like a little disconcerting, but okay, you know. Yeah. Anyway, I don't think we have too many questions today. I think we answered everybody's questions.
Well, we've been rambling for 3 hours.
Wait. All right. Last question. Unless anyone has other questions. Don't you think they'd save up spellcrafting for their 10-year birthday next year?
I don't think spellcrafting is like.
I don't think it's
core enough to the Elder Scrolls experience.
I feel like for 10 years, if they can be like, fuck last gen, now you get a new class.
Yeah!
I think that is the full level of hype for a lot of people. I mean, not for last gen, not for people who are stuck on last gen. It'll be like, oh, cool, neat. 10-year anniversary, I can not play. But like, for everybody that does not include... I feel like being able to announce a new class would probably be a pretty big 10-year
I agree.
thing. I think that would equally, if not more so, land for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think 10 years is the decade, like official decade, is like something really.
And you can also sort of say like, okay, it's been a decade on this console. We've got to let it go. Type of deal.
This kid is 10 years old now. It can fend for itself.
Yeah, it's got exactly. And you just push the PS4s out into the wild, and they never come back.
But I think new class and the announcement dropping. Yeah, I agree with Lotus for sure, 100%. 100%. I think that'd be hype as shit. That'd be hype as fuck.
Well, especially if this year really lands too, and it's like, oh man, spellcrafting is great. Also, here's a new class. It's like, okay, that'd be a double 2 years of things actually landing would do a lot for the overall sentiment, I think, around this game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next question. Maddie wants to ask, I do want to ask why spellcrafting? It's an abandoned thing from 2014 because of Balanced Nightmares, and Rich said they wouldn't bring it back years ago. So why this big push that it's happening? Because, did we discuss this earlier as well? It's like the only thing on the list that makes sense at this point.
It's more of
a much requested feature, right? And what could that possibly be?
The only much requested feature that I can't come up with a reason why it actually wouldn't work.
Yeah. And I don't think, and it's going to probably be something quite simple, like just deciding what your skills cost and what kind of damage it does, rather than huge brand new things. Just be more
Balanced Nightmares. We talked about this earlier as well. There's ways to make it not nightmarish for balance. And there's
Yeah,
also
I don't
ways
think it'll be. I
to
don't think it'll
not
be
care.
new skills. It'll be like
Yeah, no.
customizing skills.
Yeah, more modification. Yeah, whatever. Just give me 1 week where I can just like breeze through Godslayer, and then you can fix it afterwards.
Yeah, nuke button.
Yeah. Oh wow, this if you do this combo, it accidentally does 156 million DPS. It's like perfect. I got that. Don't need a tank. I'm gonna one man this real quick.
And also, I think there's something to be said for the current combat balance. I think it doesn't matter at this point what the combat balance is like. No, I'm serious. Fuck it, make everything OP. Why not? Who cares?
It's really funny.
Who cares anymore at this point? Fuck it. I don't give a shit. Do you give a shit?
Hey, whatever.
I'll play whatever.
Who cares if DKs are OP? Who cares if Templars are OP? Just fucking make them all OP. You know, fuck it.
I just as long as I'm having fun, that's why I play video games. I could go to work.
That's
if
the
I
thing.
wanted to not enjoy myself.
That's why people aren't enjoying ESO's combat anymore. Like they're enjoying the skeletal frame of it, but they're not enjoying anything else, like the organs or the flesh. If you have to make an anatomy example, but like the core combat, people enjoy it, but like everything else, like balanced by spreadsheets, stale, homogenized,
You need to
unfinished
redo everything
hybridization.
from
It's
patch
like
to patch. Like,
if this is all for the sake of balance, it's not fun.
Right.
But if you make everything OP as shit and don't care or don't give a shit too much or whatever, I think it's probably fun. It's probably gonna be fun. I don't know. But all right, next question. What are your opinions on the wonderful and most constructive feedback generally found on the forums? Do you think the forums add anything to the community?
I don't look on. I don't even look on the forums.
You don't look at the forums, really?
Not anymore.
Never? Not anymore. What happened?
I used to jump in and out of them, and I was like, "This is not constructive at all. This is people just being super mad or being super banned." Which is, you know, it's just like
there's kind of flaws on both sides. Like the people asking the questions, just ask them in a really aggressive way and non-constructive way, and then. You sometimes get the impression that the people don't seem to answer the question properly.
Right, they're trying to skirt around it and stuff. I mean, I've jumped on and off the forums over the years, but I never really. I have to like a lot of people just get like overwhelmed by stuff, and I totally get it. But it's like I limit my entertainment of all of that stuff to like one form of social media, which is Twitter, and then beyond that, I'm just like, yeah, man, like that. Nope. Too much of that is not going to help anybody, so.
No, quite.
I think it's funny.
Oh, I can totally understand. And that's the other people
fun.
who do it for entertainment value, that I totally get. The problem is a lot of stuff I used to be like, oh, ha, 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 this person's being dumb. Like, that's the joke. And then it's like, oh, no, so many of you actually agree with this. This isn't good. Like, this isn't good at all. You're not, no, this is supposed to be like a parody of things you're supposed to do. You don't aspire to be this. Like, that's not good. And then everybody just like, it just gets more extreme where it's just like, oh, well, this person was sort of rude, so I'm going to be extra rude. And then the next person's aggressively rude. And then it's just like, okay, well, this is just wildly out of control. And I have no idea what we're even talking about anymore other than just being mad.
Yeah.
All right. I think that was the last question. I want to start wrapping it up. But thanks for coming out again, Lotus. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I've enjoyed having your show to listen to. I originally didn't really have a way to listen to it for a while, and then you put it on Spotify, and I was like, sweet, now I can actually catch up on the whole show. So you gave me plenty of listening over the last year.
Where can we find you if people want to hear more of you?
So podcasting wise, I'm a co-host of the Unofficial Elder Scrolls Pages Tales of Tamriel, as well as the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. Both of those are podcasts that I do usually weekly. Sometimes things are a little off, so sometimes it's like a week and a half, sometimes it's 2 weeks. So usually it's like a weekly show for each. Other than that, I've got a Twitch and a YouTube and stuff, but I just kind of keep this as a hobby, so I'm not like super aggressive into constantly producing stuff and kind of having like a regular cadence. It's kind of just when I get time to do this stuff. But I'm really easy to find. If I have an account there, I'm LotusOfDoom. Like that's it. I've got cross branding across everything. So if you're interested in any of my stuff, old game playthroughs, current stuff, whatever, it's just LotusOfDoom wherever.
Brilliant.
All right. Well, hopefully I'll see you in Boston this year.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm very excited.
We should meet up for drinks and dinner again.
Absolutely. I enjoyed that little bar that totally freaked out the Uber because they were like, "Where is this?" I was like, "I don't know, this
Where's
hotel."
what?
And I just walked into the hotel and found you guys. I was like, "Oh, cool, it was in here."
Alright.
Jeez.
Alright, good to see you again too, Ollie, for the new year.
Nice to see you again.
Yep. Everybody
See you
else.
next time.
Bye.
Bye.